Act 1 of Mid-Channel by Arthur Wing Pinero. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Persons of the Play.
Theodore Blundell, read by Inkell.
The Honourable Peter Mottram, read by ToddHWLeonard
Ferris, read by Tomas Peter.
Warren, servant at Lancaster Gate, read by Giordano.
Cole, servant at the flat in Cavendish Square, read by Agnes Robert
BehrRideout, Mr. Ferris's servant, read by Alan Mapstone.
Upholsterer, read by
BeeswaxcandleUpholsterer Assistant, read by Sandra.
Zoe Blundell, read by Jenn BrodaMrs.
Mrs. Pierpoint, read by
ShrimpPhishEthel Pierpoint, read by Sonia.
Mrs. Annerly, read by
valrothLena, read by Sonali.
Stage Directions, read by Larry Wilson. The scene is laid in London. The events of the first act take place on an afternoon in January. The rest of the action occurs on a day in the following June. Mid-Channel. The first act. The scene is a drawing-room, decorated and furnished in the French style. In the wall opposite the spectator there is a door, the upper part of which is glazed. A silk curtain hangs across the glazed panels, but above the curtain there is a view of the corridor beyond. The fireplace, where a bright fire is burning, is in the wall on the right. There is a door on the further side of the fireplace, another on the nearer side. Both these doors are supposed to lead to a second drawing-room. On either side of the fireplace there is an armchair, and on the further side, standing out in the room, is a settee. Some illustrated papers of the popular sort are lying upon the armchair next to the settee. Behind the settee are an oblong table and a chair. In the middle of the room, on the left of the settee, and facing the fire, is another armchair. And on the left of the armchair, on the nearer side of the fireplace, there is a fauteuil stool. A writing table with a chair before it stands on the left-hand side of the room, and among the objects on the writing table are a hand mirror and some photographs in frames. Other pieces of furniture, of a more formal kind than those already specified, fill spaces against the walls. One of these, on the left of the glazed door, is a second settee. The room is lighted only by the blaze of the fire, and the corridor also is in semi-darkness. Note: throughout, right and left are the spectators' right and left, not the actors. The corridor is suddenly lighted up. Then Warren enters at the glazed door and switches on the light in the room. He is followed by Mrs. Pierpoint, a pleasant-looking, middle-aged lady, and by Ethel, a pretty girl of 25. Mrs. Pierpoint to the servant.
You are sure Mrs. Blundell will be in soon?
She said 4:30, ma'am.
It's that now, isn't it?
Just upon, ma'am.
Warren withdraws, closing the door.
What beautiful rooms these are.
Money.
I always feel I'm in Paris when I'm here, in some smart house in the Champs-Élysées, not at Lancaster Gate. What is Mr. Blundell, mother?
A stockbroker.
Stockbroker?
Blundell something or other, and Mottram. He goes to the city every morning.
I know that, but I've never heard him or Zoe mention the stock exchange.
Mrs. Pierpoint, sitting on the settee by the fireplace.
Prosperous stockbrokers and their wives, those who move in a decent set, don't mention the stock exchange.
Then that nice person, Mr. Mottram, is a stockbroker too?
Of course, dear. He's the Mottram of the firm.
And he's the son of a peer.
Peers' sons are common enough in the city nowadays, and peers for that matter.
Ethel moving to the fireplace and warming her hands.
Zoe is a doctor's daughter.
Has she given you leave to call her Zoe?
Yes, last week. Asked me to. I'm so glad. I've taken such a liking to her.
She was a Miss Tucker. Her father practised in New Cavendish Street. He was a great gout man.
You are full of information, Mother.
Emma Lawton was giving me the whole history of the Blundells at lunch today. She has money of her own.
Zoe?
Dr. Tucker left 60 or 70,000 pounds, and she came in for it all, but they'd got on before then.
There are stockbrokers and stockbrokers, I suppose.
Straight and crooked, as in every other business or profession.
I do think, though, that a girl in Zoe's position might have chosen somebody slightly more refined than Mr. Blundell.
What's wrong with him? He's extremely amiable and inoffensive.
Amiable?
He strikes me as being so.
I don't call it particularly amiable or inoffensive in a husband to be as snappy with his wife as he is with Zoe.
Snappy?
Irritable. Impatient.
Oh, I dare say there's an excellent understanding between them. They've been married a good many years.
13, she's told me.
Married people are allowed to be out of humour with each other occasionally.
A considerable allowance must be made for Mr. Blundell, I'm afraid.
You're prejudiced, Ethel. I've seen her just as snappy, as you term it, with him.
You can't blame her if she's provoked.
Nor him if he's provoked. The argument cuts both ways.
Ethel listening.
Shh.
Zoe, a charming, animated, bright-eyed woman, wearing her hat and some costly furs, enters quickly at the glazed door.
Delightful.
Mrs. Pierpoint, rising.
Your servant insisted on our coming up.
Zoe, shaking hands with Mrs. Pierpoint.
If he hadn't, I'd have wrung his neck.
Kissing Ethel.
How are you, dear?
Stripping off her gloves.
The weather, isn't it filthy? Do you remember what the sun's like? I had the blinds drawn all over the house at 11 o'clock this morning. What's the good of trying to make believe it's day?
Taking off her coat.
Do sit down. Why is it that more people commit suicide in summer than in winter?
Mrs. Pierpoint resuming her seat on the settee by the fire.
Do they?
Ethel sitting upon the foothill stool.
Why, yes, Mother. What you call 'em, statistics prove it.
Zoe throwing her coat and gloves upon the settee at the back and unpinning her hat.
You'll see. When I put an end to myself, it will be in the winter time.
My dear!
Zoe!
If you are in this frame of mind, why don't you pack your trunks and fly?
Fly?
Mother means cut it.
Ethel!
Zoe tossing her hat onto the settee and taking up the hand mirror from the writing table and adjusting her hair.
Don't scold her. She picks up her slang from me.
Evil communications.
I mean, go abroad for a couple of months. Egypt.
Mother, how horrid of you. I should miss her terribly.
Cairo, Assuan.
Zoe looking into the hand-glass steadily.
That's funny. I have been thinking lately of cutting it.
But I suppose it would have to be without your busy husband.
Zoe replacing the mirror.
Yes, it would be without Theo.
Turning to Mrs. Pierpoint and Ethel, and rattling on again.
Well, how have you been amusing yourselves? You wretches, you haven't been near me since Monday, either of you. Done anything? Seen anything?
Nothing.
Mrs. Pierpoint to Zoe.
If you're under the weather, there's some excuse for me.
Zoe walking about restlessly.
Oh, but I will keep moving, though the heavens fall. I've been to the theatre every night this week and supped out afterwards. They've opened such a ripping restaurant in Jermyn Street. You haven't seen the new play at the St. Martin's, then?
No.
I want to, badly.
I'll take you. We'll make up a party.
Scribbling a memorandum at the writing table.
I'll tell Lenny Ferris to get seats.
Good business.
Ethel!
It's all about children. Kitties. There are the sweetest little tots in it. 2 especially. A tiny, round-eyed boy and a mite of a girl with straw-colored hair. You feel you must clamber onto the stage and hug them. You feel you must.
Aren't there any grown-ups?
Zoe dropping into the armchair facing the fire.
Oh, yes. They bore me.
I was reading the story to you, Mother.
The story's no account. It's the kitties. The man who wrote the thing must be awfully fond of children. I wonder whether he has any little ones. If he hasn't, it's of no consequence to him. He can imagine them. What a jolly gift! Fancy, to have the power of imagining children, bringing them to life, just by shutting the door and sitting down at your writing table and saying to your brain, "Now then, I'm ready for them." Ring the bell, Ethel.
Ethel rises and going to the fireplace, rings the bell.
Let's have tea.
I'm afraid we can't stay for tea. I've promised to be at old Miss Fremantle's at 5 o'clock. Ethel?
Yes, Mother?
Go downstairs for a few minutes. I want a little private conversation with Mrs. Blundell.
Private conversation?
If she won't think me too troublesome.
Zoe rising and opening the nearer door on the right. To Ethel.
Come in here. There's a lovely fire.
Disappearing.
I'll switch the light on.
Ethel following Zoe at the door.
What is it about, Mother?
Mrs. Pierpoint rising.
Now, don't be inquisitive, Ethel.
Zoe from the adjoining room.
Come along.
Ethel goes into the next room. Warren enters at the glazed door. Mrs. Pierpoint to Warren.
Mrs. Blundell rang for tea.
Very good, ma'am.
Warren withdraws as Zoe returns.
We shan't be heard?
Zoe closing the door.
No.
It's really most improper of me to bother you in this way.
Zoe advancing to Mrs. Pierpoint.
Can I be of any use to you?
Well, yes, you can. You can give me, what shall I call it, a hint?
Zoe sitting on the fauteuil stool.
A hint?
On a subject that concerns Ethel.
Sitting in the chair facing the fire.
We're quite new friends of yours, dear Mrs. Blundell. Is it 6 weeks since we dined at the Dorrells?
There or thereabouts.
A fortnight or so before Christmas, wasn't it? But my girl has formed a great attachment to you, and I fancy you are inclined to be interested in her.
Rather. She and I are going to be tremendous pals.
That's splendid. Now, don't laugh at me for my extreme cautiousness, if you can help it.
Cautiousness?
Tell me, as one woman to another, do you consider it advisable for Ethel to see much of Mr. Ferris?
Advisable?
Oh, I've no doubt he's a highly respectable young man, as young men go. I'm not implying anything to the contrary.
Is she seen much of Mr. Ferris?
She meets him here.
Ah, yes.
And he has suddenly taken to dropping in to tea with us pretty regularly. And twice this week, he has sent her some magnificent flowers. Magnificent.
Dear old Lenny.
There's something in his manner, too. One can't describe it.
Zoe, a little ruefully.
I am amusing you.
No, I beg your pardon.
Rising and going to the fire.
Somehow I've never pictured Lenny with a wife.
It may be only an excess of politeness on his part. There mayn't be the least foundation for my suspicions.
I suppose every married woman believes that her bachelor chums will remain bachelors.
And pray, dear Mrs. Blundell, don't take me for a matchmaking mother. I've no desire to lose my girl yet awhile, I assure you. But I want to know, naturally, it's my duty to know, exactly who and what are the men who come into my drawing-room.
Why, naturally.
And it occurred to me that, as we made Mr. Ferris's acquaintance in your house, you wouldn't object to giving me, as I put it, the merest hint.
Ethel, what about her? Does she like him?
It's evident she doesn't dislike him, but she's not a girl who would be in a hurry to confide in anybody over a love affair, not even in her mother. True, there may be nothing to confide in the present case. I repeat, I may be altogether mistaken. At the same time...
You wish me to advise you as to whether Lenny Ferris should be encouraged.
Whether he should be cold-shouldered. I prefer that expression.
Very well. I'll furnish you with his character, dear Mrs. Pierpoint, with pleasure.
Leonard Ferris, a fresh, boyish young man, enters at the glazed door, with the air of one who is at home.
Hello.
Zoe just as carelessly.
Hello, Len.
Leonard, shaking hands with Mrs. Pierpoint.
How do you do? How's Miss Ethel?
Mrs. Pierpoint, inclining her head.
Thank you.
Leonard, rubbing his hands together.
Here's a day.
Zoe, taking his hand.
Your hands are frozen.
Leonard, going to the fire.
I drove my car up here.
You're crazy.
Sitting on the settee by the fire.
You never rang me up this morning to ask if I was tired.
Why, I was engaged. First-rate night last night.
The summit. Lenny?
Eh?
Mrs. Pierpoint and I are talking secrets. Go into the next room for a second.
Shan't if there isn't a fire.
Of course there's a fire. Things ain't so bad in the city as all that.
Leonard at the nearer door on the right.
Any tea?
By and by. You'll find somebody in there you know.
Leonard going into the room.
Who?
Shut the door.
The door is closed.
Talk of the...
Bless me, I hope not.
No, I shouldn't turn him in there at this moment if he wasn't what he is. The dearest boy in the world. Should I?
Boy?
He's 32. A man of 32 is a boy to a woman of... to an old married woman. He's the simplest, wholesomest, best-natured fellow living. If you had him for a son-in-law, you'd be lucky.
It's a relief to me, at any rate.
And I should lose one of my tame robins.
Tame robins?
Zoe rising and going over to the writing table and taking up 2 of the photographs.
I always have his photo on my table. His and Peter Mottram's. Peter Mottram is my husband's partner. You've met him here. I call them my tame robins. They come and eat crumbs off my windowsill. I've no end of tame robins, men chums, but these 2 are my specials.
Replacing the photographs.
Well, if Lenny ever goes, I shall have to promote Harry Estridge or Jim Mollidane or Cossie Rawlings.
Mrs. Pierpoint, who has risen and followed Zoe to the writing table.
But why should Mr. Ferris ever go completely?
Zoe smiling.
Oh, when a robin marries, Jenny doesn't share him with another wren. Not much.
Warren enters at the glazed door with a female servant. They carry in the tea and lay it upon the table behind the settee by the fire. Zoe, after glancing at the servants, dropping her voice.
I better finish drawing up the prospectus while I'm at it.
Prospectus?
He's got $2,000 a year. Both his people are dead. There's an aunt in the country who may leave him a bit extra, but she's a cantankerous old cat, and in my opinion, Charity'll have every sou. Still, $2,000 a year.
I oughtn't to hear any more, but you understand, don't you?
Perfectly. And he lives in a comfy little flat behind the Albert Hall and is mad on motor cars. He's invented a wonderful wheel, which is to give the knock to pneumatics. If anything will bring him to ruin, that will.
Walking away towards the tea table laughingly.
There!
Tea is served, ma'am.
Mrs. Pierpoint to Zoe, who returns to her.
I'm exceedingly obliged to you. You won't breathe a word to Ethel.
Not a syllable. It would break my heart, but I hope it'll come off, for her sake.
She's a sweet, sensible child.
And as for him, I'll tell you this for your comfort. I'm honestly certain that Lenny Ferris would be the sort of husband that lasts.
That lasts? What do you mean?
Oh, never mind. Tea!
The servants have withdrawn. She runs across to the further door on the right, opens it, and calls,
Tea!
Seating herself at the tea table.
Are you firm about going on?
It's Lizzie Fremantle's birthday. She's Ethel's godmother.
To Ethel, who enters with Leonard.
Are you ready, Ethel?
Must we?
Now, my dear.
Zoe to Leonard.
Lenny, you've got to get tickets for the St. Martin's and take the whole crowd of us.
Leonard with a wry face.
That kid's play again.
Very well, Peter will do it.
No, right you are.
I stand.
Rot.
Then Peter has the job.
To the ladies.
We'll ask Peter Mottram to be one of us anyhow.
The supper's mine, then.
Anything for peace.
Shaking hands with Mrs. Pierpoint, who comes to her.
Monday night?
You're a great deal too good.
Leonard has opened the glazed door and is now in the corridor. Mrs. Pierpoint joins him. Leonard to Mrs. Pierpoint as they disappear.
Got a vehicle?
My venerable four-wheeler, the oldest friend I have in London.
Ethel to Zoe, who rises.
What did Mother have to say to you so mysteriously?
She wants me to consult Theo about something.
Her railway shares?
Zoe nodding. Ethel satisfied.
Oh, goodbye.
When are we to have a nice long jaw together? Just you and I.
Mother won't let me out alone in these fogs.
Fog or no fog, try and shunt her tomorrow.
I'll do my best.
I'll be in all the morning.
They turn their heads towards the door, listening.
Lenny's whistling for you.
Mother.
They kiss affectionately, and Ethel hurries away. Zoe resumes her seat at the tea table and pours out tea. Presently Leonard returns, and after closing the door, comes to her.
It's beginning to sleep now. 'Pon my soul.
She hands him a cup of tea in silence. He looks at her inquiringly.
Anything wrong, Zoe?
Zoe with an air of indifference.
No.
Positive?
Zoe, in the same tone, offering him a plate of bread and butter.
Quite.
Leonard taking a slice.
Thought there'd been another row, perhaps.
Zoe putting the plate of bread and butter aside and taking up her cup and saucer.
Hell of a row last night.
Last night?
This morning, rather.
When you came home?
Zoe sipping her tea.
After you and Peter brought me home.
What over?
Nothing.
Leonard drinking.
Must have been over something.
Oh, some trifle, as usual.
Too bad of Theo. Damned sight too bad.
I dare say it was as much my fault as his.
It's a cursed shame.
Drop it, Len.
Handing him a dish of cakes.
Cake?
Leonard putting his empty cup down before her and taking a cake.
Ta.
Zoe pouring out another cup of tea for him.
First time you've drunk tea with me this week? Honored.
Sorry.
Yes.
Giving him his tea.
Sorry that Mrs. Pierpoint and Ethel can't receive you this afternoon.
Leonard, after a pause, uncomfortably.
Mrs. Pierpoint been telling you anything about me?
Mention that you frequently turn up in Sloane Street at tea time.
There's a man down that way who's frightfully gone on my wheel.
Zoe drinking.
Indeed?
My great difficulty, you know, is to get it onto the market.
India rubber people opposing you, I expect.
Tooth and nail.
Zoe nibbling a cake.
And the man who lives Sloane Street way?
Very influential chap.
Capitalist?
Millionaire.
And when you're down Sloane Street way, do you take your flowers to Miss Pierpoint, or does your florist send them?
Again there is silence. He lays his cup down, leaves her side, and produces his cigarette case. Sticking a cigarette between his lips, he is about to close the case, when she rises and takes a cigarette from it. She moves to the fireplace, lighting her cigarette with a match from a box attached to a gold chatelaine hanging from her waist. He seats himself in the chair, facing the fire, and lights his own cigarette. Leonard, moodily.
I don't want to marry Zoe.
There's no reason why you shouldn't if you feel disposed to, but you needn't be a sneak about it.
The aunt's pitching into me again like Billy-O. High time I settled down, high time I became a reputable member of society. Oh, I ask you, what the deuce have I ever done that's particularly disreputable? Then come 2 verses of scripture.
Zoe, advancing to him.
She hasn't ordered you to be underhanded with your best friends, I assume.
I'm not underhanded.
Why this concealment, then?
There's no concealment. There's nothing to conceal. I give you my word there isn't. I haven't made up my mind one way or the other.
You're weighing the question.
Very well, I'm weighing it, if you like.
Flinging the end of his match into the fireplace and jumping up.
Confound it all. Mayn't a man send a basket or 2 of rotten flowers to a girl without having a special license bought for him by meddling people?
Thank you.
I don't mean you, Zoe. You know I don't mean you.
Pacing the room.
Miss Pierpoint, is a charming girl, but I'm no more in love with her than I am with my old hat.
Then you oughtn't to pay her marked attention.
I'm not paying her marked attention.
Zoe shrugs her shoulders.
If Mrs. Pierpoint says I've been making love to her daughter...
She has said nothing of the kind.
Leonard sitting in the chair before the writing table in a huff.
That's all right. Pity she can't hold her tongue over trifles.
There is another pause. Then, partly kneeling upon the chair in the middle of the room, and resting her elbow on the back of it, Zoe softens. Zoe making rings with her cigarette smoke.
Don't be wild, Len. I was only vexed with you for not consulting me. It would hurt my feelings dreadfully if you got engaged to anybody on the sly. Len.
He turns to her, but with his head down.
She is a charming girl. I'm not surprised at your being spoons on her. If I were a man, she's just the sort of girl I'd marry. If I were on the lookout for a wife.
Perhaps I have made myself a bit of an arse over her, Zoe.
She laughs lightly. He raises his eyes.
Zoe?
Well?
Leonard gazing at Zoe.
Do you know that she reminds me very often of you?
She? I'm old enough to be her grandmother.
Oh, hang that. She's got hold of a lot of your odd little tricks. A lot of them.
She's been with me a goodish deal lately.
And that's it. She has the most enormous admiration for you. Enormous.
She's a dear.
Leonard gently hitting his knee with his fist.
I've thought of all that when I've been worrying it out in my mind.
Thought of all what?
That you'd always be pals, you two. Close pals.
If she became Mrs. Lenny.
Leonard nodding.
And so, if I did screw myself up to speaking to her, it wouldn't make the least difference to our friendship, yours and mine.
No difference.
I should still be your tame Robin.
Ah, no. Don't make that mistake, Len.
Mistake?
Zoe is shaking her head.
It never works. I've seen similar cases over and over again. There's any amount of gush at the start between the young wife and the husband's women pals, but the end is always the same.
The end?
Gradually, the wife draws the husband away. She manages it somehow. We have a gift for it. I did it myself when I married Theo.
Leonard rising and walking about.
If I believed what you say, Zoe, I never size up a girl with a view to marrying as long as I live.
You're a vain creature. I've plenty of other boys, Len, to fill your place.
Leonard not heeding her.
If things were smoother with you and Theo, one mightn't hesitate half as much.
There's Peter Mottram, Gus Heedmont, Harry Estridge, Claude Lowenstein.
As it is, great Scott, I'm a brute even to think of taking the risk.
Cossie Rawlings, Jim Mollidane, Robbie Ralph.
Leonard, stopping in his walk.
Yes, but my friendship's more to you than the friendship of most of those other fellows, I should hope.
Zoe, making a grimace at him.
Not a scrap.
Leonard, his brow darkening.
You told me once I was your favourite.
My chaff, I have no favourite.
Leonard, laying the remains of his cigarette upon a little bronze tray on the writing table.
Peter's a trump, and Harry Estridge and Rawlings are sound enough, but I often feel I'd like to knock young Lowenstein's teeth down his fat throat.
Zoe, blowing her smoke in his direction as he comes to her and stands before her.
You get married and mind your own concerns.
Zoe, I hate to see men of that class buzzing round you.
Do you?
Look here. Whatever happens between you and Theo in the future, you'll never let anything or anybody drive you off the rails, will you?
Zoe, frowning.
Len.
I couldn't stand it.
Putting his hands upon her shoulders.
I tell you straight, it'd break me.
Passionately, his grip tightening.
Zoe.
She shakes herself free and backs away from him, confronting him with a flushed face.
Don't be silly.
Brushing her hair from her forehead.
If you ever do that again, Len, I'll box your ears.
The Honourable Peter Mottram, a spruce, well-preserved man of 50, enters at the glazed door. Peter cheerily.
Good morning, or whatever it is.
Zoe, dropping the end of her cigarette into the grate.
That's you, Peter.
I'm just off.
Don't apologize.
Leonard at the glazed door to Peter.
See you later.
He goes out. Peter to Zoe.
What's the matter with the youth?
Zoe with a shrug.
Got the hump over something.
Facing him.
Tea?
No, thanks.
Sitting in the chair in the middle of the room.
And how are you today, my dear lady?
She makes a wry mouth, sighs, and throws herself disconsolately upon the settee by the fire. He nods intelligently.
Yes. Sorry to hear you and old Theo have had another bad fallout.
Zoe arranging a pillow for her head.
I guessed he'd carry it all to you.
Shockingly grieved I am.
He began this one.
By blowing you up for going on the frisk every night.
And I answered him back. I was dog-weary. It was nearly 1 o'clock. He needn't have jumped upon me almost before I'd taken the key out of the lock.
I also have been reproved for aidin' and abettin'.
Serves you jolly well right. Why didn't you and Lenny come in with me, you cowards? That might have saved a squabble. I begged you to have a whiskey.
Peter, after a brief pause.
Zoe?
Zoe, her head in the pillow.
Oh, be kind to me, Peter.
Why do you sally forth night after night?
Because I must.
Must?
I've got the fidgets.
I get the fidgets at times, in bed. Do you know how I cure 'em?
Of course I don't.
I lie perfectly stiff and still. I make myself lie perfectly still. I won't stir. I say to myself, Peter, you shan't twist or turn. And I win.
How easy it is to talk. I defy you to control yourself if you're shut up with a person who goads you to desperation.
Theo?
Zoe, beating her pillow.
How can I stay at home and eat a long dinner and spend an entire evening alone with Theo? We're not entertaining just now. He says he's fed up with having people here.
Take him out with you.
Then we quarrel before others. That's too degrading. Oh, it's tiff-tiff, wrangle-jangle, outdoors and indoors with us.
You say things to Theo when you're angry, Zoe, that wound him to the quick.
Really?
Really. You mayn't be aware of it. You scratch the poor old chap till he bleeds.
Do you imagine he never says things to me that wound me to the quick?
He doesn't mean half of 'em.
Neither do I.
Peter rising and going to the fire.
No, there's the crass foolishness of it all. My dear lady.
Zoe suddenly sitting upright.
We're on each other's nerves, Peter. That's the plain truth. We're on each other's nerves.
Worrying each other.
Sick to death of each other. We shall have been married 14 years on the 30th of next June. Isn't it appalling? He's getting so stodgy and pompous and flat-footed. He drives me mad with his elderly ways.
Oh.
He's sick and tired of me, at any rate. My little jokes and pranks that used to amuse him so, they annoy him now, scandalize him. He's continually finding fault with me, bullying me. That's all the notice he takes of me. As for my gowns or my hats, anything I put on, I might dress in sackcloth. He'd never observe it.
Tearfully.
Ah.
She searches for her handkerchief and fails to find it. Peter produces a folded handkerchief from his breast pocket, shakes it out and gives it to her. She wipes her eyes as she proceeds.
Sometimes, I own, I'm aggravating, but he forgets how useful I was to him in the old days, when we were climbing. Yes, those were the days. The first 6 or 7 years of our marriage, when we were up north in Fitzjohn's Avenue.
Tossing Peter's handkerchief to him and getting to her feet.
Oh, we were happy then, Peter. You didn't know us then, when we were up north.
Peter wagging his head.
My dear lady, we were all happier when we were up north.
Zoe giving him a look of surprise as she paces the room on the left.
You?
I mean, in a previous stage of our careers.
Ah, yes, yes.
That's the lesson of life, Mrs. Zoe. We've all had our Fitzjohn's Avenue, in a sense. In other words, we've all been young and keen as mustard, with everything before us, instead of having most things behind us.
Zoe leaning on the back of the chair before the writing table.
Oh, don't.
Peter thoughtfully.
Do you know, I often wonder whether there's anything more depressing than to see the row of trophies standing on the sideboard.
Zoe sitting at the writing table and digging her fingers into her hair.
Be quiet, Peter.
That silver gilt vase there. The old horse that gained it for you is lying in the paddock with a stone atop of him, and you're using his hoof as an ink-pot. Those goblets you won on the river, and the cup you helped yourself to on the links of Biarritz or St. Moritz. There's a little pile of ashes at the bottom of every one of 'em. So it is with life generally. You scoop in the prizes, and there are the pots on the sideboard to remind you that it ain't the prizes that count, but the pushing and the struggling and the cheering. They preach to us on Sundays about cherubim and seraphim. It's my firm hope and conviction that when we die and go to heaven, we shall all find ourselves up north again, in Fitzjohn's Avenue.
Coming to the chair in the middle of the room.
Meanwhile, it's no good repining.
Turning the chair towards her and sitting.
The trophies are on the sideboard, dear lady, and they've got to be kept clean and shiny. Now, Zoe.
She whimpers.
Zoe? Zoe?
She turns to him.
Zoe, one ugly word passed between you and Theo last night.
One?
One ugly word that must never be repeated.
What word?
The glazed door opens and Warren appears, carrying a teapot on a tray. He comes to the table and exchanges the teapot he is carrying for the one that is already there. Zoe to the man.
Mr. Mottram won't have any tea, Warren.
Warren removing the cups and saucers which have been used and putting them on to his tray.
No, ma'am, but Mr. Blundell's just come in, ma'am.
Warren withdraws, closing the door. Zoe rises stiffly and gathers up her hat, coat, and gloves. Then she returns to Peter, who remains seated.
What word was it?
Separation.
Theodore Blundell, a big, burly, but good-looking man, enters at the glazed door. He halts on entering and glances furtively at Zoe, as if expecting her to speak. But without meeting his eyes, she passes him and leaves the room. Theodore, with a shrug.
Ha!
Peter, looking over his shoulder, sees that he and Theodore are alone. Theodore seats himself at the tea-table and pours out his tea grimly.
Lots of good you seem to have done, Peter.
Haven't done much, I admit. Pity you came home quite so soon.
You left the office at 2:30.
She wasn't in when I first got here.
Theodore, taking a slice of bread and butter.
Anyhow, kind of you to offer to have a talk to her.
Munching.
Plenty of abuse of me,
She says you're on each other's nerves, Theo.
I'm afraid there's something in that.
And that you are growing a bit heavy in hand, old man.
Exceedingly sorry.
Peter, after a pause.
Theo?
Hello?
Shall I tell you what's at the bottom of it all?
Well?
She's got a feeling that you're tired of her.
Theodore, gulping his tea.
If you knew how constantly I have that served up to me.
Will you allow me to speak out?
Don't be so polite.
My belief is that if you could avoid conveying that impression to Zoe, matters would improve considerably in this establishment.
Oh?
It's as easy as brushing your hat. A little petting, little sweethearting.
Yes.
Well, those are my views for what they're worth.
Theodore, pouring out another cup of tea.
My dear fellow, if you'd get married and have 13 or 14 years of it, as I've had, your views would be worth more than they are.
Oh, that won't wash.
Rising.
When a man's suffering from gout in the toe, he doesn't stipulate that his M.D. shall be writhing from the same ailment. No, very frequently, the outsider...
Good gracious! You're not going to remark that lookers-on see most of the game?
Words to that effect.
Ho! Why is it that, the moment a man's matrimonial affairs are in a tangle, every platitude in the language is chewed out at him?
Leaning his head on his hands.
If you've nothing fresher to say on the subject.
My dear chap, it's trying to say something fresh on the subject of marriage that's responsible for a large share of the domestic unhappiness and discontent existing at the present day. There's too much of this trying to say something fresh on every subject, in my opinion.
Nobody can accuse you, Peter.
You take it from me. There are two institutions in this world that are never going to alter. Men and women, in the shape of chickens' eggs. Chickens' eggs are never going to be laid square, and men and women will continue to be mere men and women till the last contango.
Theodore finishes his tea, rises, and comes to the fire.
I'm referring, of course, to real men and women. I don't include persons in petticoats with flat chests and no hips, nor individuals wearing beards and trousers who dine on a basin of farinaceous food and a drink of water out of a filter. They belong to a distinct species. No, I mean the genuine article, like you and me and your missus. Men and women with blood in their veins, and 1.5% of good humanizing alcohol in that.
Theodore, throwing a log on the fire.
What's the moral of your eloquent but rather vague discourse?
Peter at the chair in the middle of the room.
The moral? Oh, the moral is that men and women of the ordinary regulation pattern must put up with the defects of each other's qualities.
Turning the chair so that it faces Theodore, and again sitting in it.
She complains that you don't admire her frocks and frills, Theo.
Theodore, groaning.
Oh.
Now come, what's the trouble? There's my old mother, 75 in April. Whenever I'm at Stillwood, I make a regular practice of complimenting her on her rig-out. By Jove, mater, I say, you are a buck this morning, or evening as the case may be. I couldn't tell you what she's wearing to save my life, but there's no harm done.
Yes, you do it, but your father doesn't do it, I'll be bound.
Peter looks glum and is silent.
It's too trivial.
Producing his cigar case.
A husband can't be everlastingly praising his wife's clothes.
Offering a cigar to Peter, which he declines.
The absence of comment on my part is a sign that I'm satisfied with Zoe's appearance, surely.
She's one of the smartest women in London.
I know she is. I've told her so till I'm sick.
Cutting and lighting a cigar.
I've always been intensely proud of Zoe. As a matter of fact, intensely proud of her.
No more than her due.
Theodore with increasing indignation.
Good God, how often at a dinner party have I caught myself looking along the table and thinking she's the handsomest woman in the room? It's a ridiculous thing to say.
What?
I suppose no man has ever been in love with his wife for longer than I've been with mine.
Peter significantly.
Ben?
And I have a very great affection for her still, or should have, if her behaviour didn't check it.
If you showed your affection more plainly, wouldn't that check her behaviour?
Theodore leaving the fireplace and moving about the room.
Oh, my dear fellow, haven't you brains enough to see? We're middle-aged people, Zoe and I. I am middle-aged, and she's not far off it, poor girl. There must come a time on a journey when your pair of horses stop prancing and settle down to a trot.
How's that for a platitude?
I thought that worm-eaten illustration might appeal to you.
She keeps wonderfully young, Theo.
Isn't that a little to my credit? But Zoe's within 3 years of 40. You can't put the clock back.
A woman's as old as she looks.
And a man's as old as he feels. Another ancient wheeze.
And a married woman's as old as her husband makes her feel.
My dear Peter, I don't want Zoe to feel older than her years by a single hour, but I confess I do ask her occasionally to feel as old as her years, and not to make herself damnably absurd.
Absurd?
This infernal fooling about with the boys, for instance. The cause of last night's flare-up, her tame robins. You're one.
Peter rises hastily and goes to the fire.
Yes, you ought to be ashamed of yourself for encouraging her.
Who's in fault? Because a man's wife has ceased to be attractive to him, it doesn't follow that she ain't attractive to others.
Attractive? The vanity of attracting a parcel of empty-headed young men. You're the patriarch of the group.
Throwing himself into the chair just vacated by Peter.
The whole thing's undignified. Raffish.
Peter extending a forefinger.
You contrive to be a trifle more sprightly at home, Theo.
Theodore moving his head from side to side.
Oh, you will hammer away at that. I'm 46. My sprightly days are over.
Humbug, old chap.
What's humbug?
Men are the biggest humbugs going, especially to themselves. And a man of your age, or mine, and I'm 4 years your senior, is never a bigger humbug than when he's deluding himself with the notion that he's scrap iron.
You're a gay old spark.
No, it's when the sun's working round to the west. It's when men are where we are now, that they're most liable to get into mischief.
Mischief? What are you driving at?
Nothing. I'm simply laying down a general principle.
Confound your general principles! Don't be an ass.
Peter coming to Theodore.
That stupid nonsense talked last night, early this morning, about living apart. Who started it?
Zoe. I fancy it was Zoe. Last night.
Oh, it wasn't the first time?
Theodore smoking with fierce puffs.
We had an awful scene. Disgraceful. I felt inclined to rush out of the house then and there.
Why didn't you? You could have let yourself in again when she'd gone to bye-bye.
No, that's not my style. If I do bang the front door, it'll be once and for all, my friend.
Peter, shaking him.
Oh.
She's independent. She has her own income, you know, and I've told her I'd supplement it, if necessary. I've settled this house on her as it is. She'd be welcome to it, and every stick in it. Worst come to the worst.
Theo.
And I'd go and live in a garret, in peace.
You're not considering such a step seriously.
Theodore turning upon him roughly.
No, I'm not. Not when I'm sitting here chatting quietly with you. Not when she's rational and amenable, as she can be when she chooses.
Clenching his hands.
But when she's irritating me till I'm half beside myself,
You...
Theodore looking up at Peter.
My God, Peter, you're a wise man, never to have taken it on.
Marriage?
Theodore throwing his head back.
Oh, my dear fellow.
The glazed door opens and Zoe enters meekly. Her eyes are red and a handkerchief is crumpled up in her hand. She glances at the tea table and comes to Theodore. Peter retreats to the fireplace. Zoe to Theodore.
Have you had your tea?
I poured it out myself.
After a moment's hesitation, she bends over him and gives him a kiss. Then she turns away and, seating herself at the writing table, proceeds to write a note. There is an awkward silence. Theodore, breaking the silence.
Zoe.
Zoe, with a sniff, writing.
Yes?
What are you doing tonight?
Jim Mallandane was going to take me to the palace. I'm putting him off.
I'll dine you out and take you somewhere.
No, I'd rather have a quiet evening at home, Theo. Just you and me.
Blowing her nose.
I've ordered Mrs. Killick to send up an extra nice dinner.
Perhaps Peter.
Zoe, stamping her foot.
No, I won't have him.
Besides, I'm booked.
I don't care whether you are or not. I want to dine alone with my husband.
There is another pause, during which Zoe scratches away with her pen. Peter, clearing his throat.
Well, I'll be getting along.
Theodore rises.
I say. Why don't you and Zoe have a week or a fortnight in Paris? It'd do you both a heap of good.
Impossible. How can I?
Certainly you can. If anything important crops up, Tom Slade or I will run over to you, or you could come back.
Again there is a pause. Zoe stops writing.
Do, old chap. Won't you?
Theodore without enthusiasm.
All right.
A fortnight. Nothing'll happen.
Theodore nodding.
A fortnight.
Uttering a little chirp of delight, Zoe resumes writing. Peter goes to her as Theodore moves away to the fireplace. Peter to Zoe.
Goodbye, ma'am.
She gives him her left hand over her shoulder. He squeezes it and makes for the glazed door. There he appears to be struck by an idea. After a silence, he turns slowly, contemplates the pair for a moment with a puckered brow, and advances a step or two.
Theo?
Theodore, who has picked up one of the illustrated papers and has seated himself upon the settee. Peter, his hands in his pockets, rattling his keys.
About halfway between Dover and Calais. No, it's between Folkestone and Boulogne, isn't it?
Theodore examining the pictures.
What?
Of course. About halfway between Folkestone and Boulogne, mid-channel, there's a shoal.
Theodore turning a page of his paper.
What of it?
Le Colbert, the French sailormen call it. Le Colbert. We call it the Ridge.
Coming forward.
If you go by Folkestone and Boulogne, you'll pass over it.
Theodore glancing at him suspiciously.
Thanks for the valuable information.
Do you know, I've never encountered that blessed shoal without experiencing a most unpleasant time.
Zoe addressing an envelope.
Oh, my dear Peter.
I've crossed on some of the finest days of the year. The sun's been shining, and Outside the harbour the water's been as smooth as it's been inside. Everything's looked as enticing as could be. But as we've neared the ridge, mid-channel, I've begun to feel fidgety, restless, out of sorts, hating myself and hating the man who has been sharing my cabin with me. But the sensation hasn't lasted long.
Zoe sealing her letter.
Glad to hear it.
No. Gradually the beastly motion has died down, and in a quarter of an hour or so I found myself pacing the deck again, arm in arm with the travelling companion I'd been positively loathing a few minutes earlier.
Theodore gaping demonstratively.
Very interesting.
My dear pals, I remember the idea once occurring to me. I mentioned it to Charlie Westbrook at the time. There's a resemblance between that and marriage.
Ha! Thought that was coming.
Zoe turns in her chair to listen to Peter.
Yes, and marriage, mark you, at its best and brightest. The happiest and luckiest of married couples have got to cross that wretched ridge. However successful the first half of their journey may be, there's the rough and tumble of mid-channel to negotiate. Some arrive there quicker than others, some later. It depends on wind and tide. But when they get there, and a bad time it is and must be, a time when travelling companions see nothing but the spots on each other's yellow faces, and when innumerable kind words and innumerable kind acts are clean forgotten.
Zoe, her letter in her hand, rises impulsively and comes to Peter.
But as I tell you, it's soon over. Well over, if only Mr. Jack and Mrs. Jill will understand the situation. If only they'll say to themselves, "We're on the ridge. We're in mid-channel. In another quarter of an hour the boat will be steady again, as steady as when we stepped on to the gangway."
To Theodore.
Not offended, old man?
Theodore uncomfortably.
Ha, ha, ha.
Zoe gently giving her letter to Peter.
Tell Warren to give that to the messenger boy.
To Theodore.
Theo.
She puts her hands upon Peter's shoulders and kisses him. Peter, chuckling. To Theodore.
Division of profits.
At the glazed door.
When'll you be off?
Oh, one day next week?
Peter nodding.
Tomorrow morning, then.
He goes out, closing the door.
Dear old Peter.
Theodore, deep in his paper.
Peter's getting a bit of a bore, though.
Zoe, mimicking Peter as she wipes her eyes.
He's amusing.
Going to Theodore and seating herself beside him.
Theo.
Zoe, edging up to him.
Let's go by Folkestone and Bologna, shall we?
I don't mind.
Zoe, wistfully.
Let's go by Folkestone and Bologna and have done with it.
Slipping her arm through his.
Theo, last night. Sorry.
He nods and looks at another picture.
I take it all back, all the things I said. I didn't mean them.
That's all right.
And you didn't mean.
Of course I didn't.
Zoe giving herself a shake.
Ah.
After a brief pause.
Theo.
Zoe taking the paper from him playfully.
Don't look at those improper young ladies.
Coaxingly.
Couldn't you manage to get away on Sunday?
Oh. I might?
It's your treat to me, isn't it? And the beginning of better times. The sooner we begin.
Theodore nodding.
You shall have it all your own way.
Oh, Zoe gleefully.
Sunday. I'm dreadfully shabby. I've no new clothes. You don't object?
Theodore distinctly.
Now, my dear Zoe, my darling, understand this from me clearly. You are never shabby. You couldn't be shabby. As far as I'm a judge, you are always dressed beautifully and in perfect taste.
Beautifully.
If you were not well-dressed, I should venture to call your attention to it.
Silence is approval.
Absolutely. So don't expect me, a busy man, to be eternally praising your gowns and what-not, because I cannot and will not do it.
I won't. I know I'm inconsiderate.
Stamping her foot.
Beastly inconsiderate.
Excitedly.
Write out a telegram now.
Telegram?
To the hotel.
Yes, that'd be wise.
He rises and goes over to the writing table, where, taking a sheet of notepaper, he sits and writes.
We couldn't get an answer to a letter.
Zoe jumping up and walking about.
Jolly nice rooms, Theo.
Theodore assentingly. Zoe humming.
Tra-la-la-ra-la-la-la-la-la.
Theodore in the throes of composition.
Shh, shh.
Zoe opening the illustrated paper.
Beg pardon?
Theodore writing.
De bonne chambre à coucher, salle de bain, et salon.
There's Lena. Don't forget the maid.
Oh, they shove her anywhere.
Zoe imperatively.
No, I must have her handy.
He writes.
What hotel are we going to, Theo?
Theodore writing.
Aussi chambre pour servante, même étage.
The Ritz.
Oh, blow the Ritz.
We've always been comfortable at the Ritz.
Theodore putting the finishing touches on his telegram.
20 francs a minute.
Zoe disappointed.
Where then? The Élysée Palace is too far out this winter. The Regina?
Theodore reading.
Pouvez-vous réserver pour Monsieur et Madame Blundell pour dimanche et nuit suivant appartement composé de bonnes chambres à coucher, salle de bain et salon, aussi chambre pour servante, même étage? Réponse télégraphique. Theodorus, London.
Zoe advancing.
Oh, Theo, shall we try the new Maurice? The Langdales had a suite there that made them feel like royalties.
Theodore half turning to her.
Gerald Zuckfield was telling me of a capital little hotel where he and Bessie stayed. The Vendome.
Where's that?
In the place Vendome.
The Ritz, the Bristol, the Wren. They're the only hotels in the place.
Oh, but this is in the part of the place that runs down to the top of the Rue Castiglione.
The narrow part?
Well, it is in the broad part, certainly.
The traffic of the Rue Saint-Honoré to help to send you to sleep.
No, there are double windows, Gerald says, to the best bedrooms.
Turning to the writing table.
It'd be an experiment.
Zoe sitting in the chair in the middle of the room with her back to him.
Yes, it would be an experiment.
Shall we risk it?
Zoe coldly.
By all means.
Theodore writing.
Directeur, Hotel Vendome.
Zoe tapping her foot upon the floor.
Ha!
Place Vendome.
Zoe holding up the illustrated paper so that he may see over her head a risque picture.
If you were taking this sort of woman with you, nothing'd be good enough for her.
Theodore glancing at the picture angrily.
Oh, don't be so coarse.
There is a pause. He leans back in his chair, biting his pen. Suddenly she flings the illustrated paper away from her into the air. Throwing down his pen, he rises and paces the room.
This promises well for an enjoyable fortnight in Paris.
Zoe rising and moving to the left.
Look here, old man. This trip was going to be your treat. Very well. That's off. I'll take you to Paris. I'll pay the expenses, and I won't stuff you up in a frowsy rabbit hutch.
Theodore coming forward on the right.
Don't insult me.
Zoe facing him.
Anyway, your treat or mine. I'd stay at no hotel in Paris that isn't top hole.
Oh, and stop your damned slang, for God's sake.
Zoe, her eyes blazing.
What?
Theodore sitting on the fauteuil stool and rocking himself to and fro.
Oh, Oh.
Stop my damned slang.
Theodore, his head in his hands.
Hold your tongue!
Zoe coming to him.
And how did I learn my damned slang, pray?
He waves her from him.
I learnt it from the crew you surrounded me with when I condescended to marry you and went out of my world into yours.
Theodore starting up.
Oh?
He goes to the bell and rings it continuously. Zoe following him.
Yes, you were hugely tickled by it then. And so were they, the men you thought might be serviceable to you, and who were serviceable to you often through me.
Oh!
Ha! And now that my tongue's furred with it, and it isn't necessary to attract the vulgar brutes any more, you round on me and rag me.
Pacing the room on the left.
Oh, if only my dear old dad were alive. He'd fuss over me and protect me. My father was a gentleman. He warned me I was chucking myself away.
Oh!
Why do you keep on ringing that bell?
I suppose I can ring the bell if I like.
You can go to the devil if you like.
She goes out at the glazed door. As she disappears, Warren passes her and enters. Theodore crossing to the writing table.
Warren?
Yes, sir?
Theodore picking up the sheet of paper on which he has written the message to the hotel.
Pack me a bag.
Bag, sir?
Theodore tearing the paper into small pieces.
Yes, I'm not sleeping at home tonight.
Warren coming to the table and preparing to remove the tea things.
Very good, sir.
End of the first act. Act 2 of Mid-Channel by Arthur Wing Pinero. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The second act. The scene is the same, but the disposition of some of the furniture is changed. The settee on the right is now placed with its back to the fireplace. At the further end of the settee are the oblong table and his chair, and on the left of the table facing the settee is the chair which in the preceding act stood in the middle of the room. An armchair is at the nearer end of the settee, and another armchair and the fauteuil stool stand together not far from the glazed door. On the oblong table are a box of cigarettes, matches, and an ashtray. The fireplace is banked with flowers. There are flowers in vases upon the tables, and the room is full of sunlight. Two men, an upholsterer and his assistant, are engaged in putting covers of gay chintz upon the chairs and settees. The upholsterer is on his knees at the settee on the right. The assistant is at the chair by the writing table. Lena, Zoe's maid, a bright buxom woman, is arranging the furniture in the middle of the room. Presently the assistant proceeds to collect the brown paper and cord which litter the floor. Upholsterer rising from his knees to Lena.
That's all right.
Lena coming to him.
And when are we to have the pleasure of seeing you again?
Tomorrow.
What about next year? Or the year after?
Producing her purse and giving him a tip.
In case I shouldn't live so long.
Thank you very much.
Moving away quietly.
With him?
The assistant laden with brown paper advances, and Lena tips him.
Thank you, miss. Morning, miss.
Good morning.
Upholsterer at the glazed door.
Good morning.
Lena tidying the furniture on the right.
Good morning.
The men depart. Almost immediately the glazed door is reopened, and Warren appears, showing in Leonard. Leonard is gloved and is carrying a straw hat and a walking cane. He has lost his fresh boyish appearance, and is sallow and lined. Leonard to Lena.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
To Warren.
I'll let Mrs. Blundell know.
To Leonard as Warren withdraws.
She'll be down soon. Will you have a paper?
Thanks. Seen him. How is she, Lena?
Middling. She's a little feverish, the doctor says. She must have caught a chill coming over.
Leonard nods.
She would sit on deck talking to Mr. Malindine. We met him by accident on the platform as we were leaving Paris.
Leonard nodding again.
She's told me.
She is to remain indoors again today and keep out of draughts.
Looking at a watch which she wears on her wrist and at the clock on the mantelpiece.
What do you say the right time is?
Leonard looking at his watch.
12:15.
Lena going to the mantelpiece.
I'm to give her medicine an hour before meals.
Moving the hands of the clock.
Ha! They've all been playing tricks here while we have been away, clockwinder included.
Indeed.
Servants, tradespeople, everybody.
Unbuckling her bracelet.
Because Mrs. Blundell is now on her own, I suppose they fancy they can take advantage of her.
Returning to Leonard.
I'll teach him.
Timing her watch.
Think we are getting fairly straight?
Leonard glancing idly at the room as he sits in the armchair near the glazed door.
Wonderfully.
Not bad, is it? Considering we have been home only 2 days.
Leonard placing his hat and cane upon the fauteuil stool.
Capital.
Lena refastening her bracelet.
Oof. The relief after some of those foreign hotels.
Leonard drawing off his gloves.
Tired of travelling, eh?
Don't ask me. I was saying to Mrs. Killick at breakfast, I have had enough of Italy to last me my life. Over 4 months of it, and without a courier?
Going towards the glazed door.
That's a bit too stiff.
It is, rather.
Lena halting by him.
Not that we wanted a courier when you came out to us. A splendid courier you were. I couldn't wish for a better. Do you remember our losing her hat box at that wretched old Siena?
Yes. Yes.
You woke him up there in grand style. Your friend, the Italian policeman, the image in the feathers? You did give him a dressing.
Sobering herself.
Yes, those 3 or 4 weeks you were with us were the pleasantest odd lot, to my idea.
Going.
Well, good day.
Stopping again.
Oh, but I must show you this.
Taking a ring from her finger.
A present from her. Last Saturday. One of the best shops in the Rue Royale.
Handing it to him.
She went out and bought it herself.
Turquoise.
And diamonds.
Leonard returning the ring.
Beautiful.
Wasn't it kind of her? I am as vain as a peacock.
Replacing the ring on her finger.
But there, you have both been extremely good to me.
Not at all.
You have. You have spoilt me completely.
At the door.
Treacherous weather for June, isn't it?
Very.
Lena in the corridor.
Oh, here you are. Here's Mr. Ferris. I was just coming up to tell you.
Leonard rises as Zoe appears in the corridor. She is dressed in an elegant robe of rich, soft material, and carries a little bag in which are a few opened letters, her handkerchief, etc. She also is changed. Her face is wan, and there are dark circles round her eyes.
Ah.
To Leonard formally, as she enters the room.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Lena, how charming the old chintz looks.
Lena, who is lingering.
It's English.
Zoe laying her bag upon the oblong table.
If we could all be freshened up by the same process.
Lena, her hand on the door handle.
Don't forget you're to take your medicine in 3/4 of an hour.
Oh, bring me the filthy stuff if you like.
Lena in the corridor, closing the door.
Now, don't be naughty.
As the woman disappears, Leonard walks over to Zoe. She puts out her hand to check him, and they stand for a moment or two watching the door and listening. Then she drops her hand and turns her face to him perfunctorily, and he kisses her as a matter of course.
Your motor isn't outside.
No, I walked across the park.
That yellow car of yours is so conspicuous.
Arranging a pillow on the settee.
Sorry I wasn't visible yesterday.
You're better?
Zoe evasively.
Oh, more or less decrepit.
Sitting.
What have you been doing with yourself?
Nothing much.
Sitting in the armchair opposite to her.
Except...
Zoe taking her bag from the table.
By the by, I've had a note this morning from an old friend of yours.
Who?
Zoe producing a letter from the bag.
Ethel Pierpoint.
Oh?
She extracts the letter from its envelope and tosses it across to him. He reads it silently with a frown. She takes a cigarette from the box on the table.
I thought you dropped her.
I did, in a fashion. I stopped her letters by ceasing to answer them.
Striking a match.
I hated calling myself hers affectionately, knowing I'd been the cause of your slacking away from her.
Leonard, under his breath.
Pish.
Zoe lighting her cigarette.
What does she say?
Leonard reading aloud.
Dearest Zoe, quite by chance I hear you are back at Lancaster Gate. Why do you still make no sign? I never wanted your friendship more than now, or the friendship of somebody who will give me good advice, or a sound shaking for being a fool. Please take pity on your troubled but ever devoted Theodore Pierpoint.
To Zoe.
What does she mean by never wanting your friendship more than now?
Zoe shakes her head. He continues to ponder over the letter.
Or the friendship of somebody who will give me good advice, or a sound shaking for being a fool.
Zoe smoking thoughtfully.
When did you see the Pierpoints last?
About a month after you left London, just before I followed you.
Returning the letter to her.
I cooled off them gradually.
Zoe, after a pause.
She's a nice girl, Ethel.
Yes, she was nice enough.
There is a further pause. Then Zoe jumps up as if to dismiss disagreeable reflections, and crosses to the writing table. There she empties her bag of the letters it contains.
Am I in the way?
Of course not.
She sits at the writing table and busies herself with rereading her letters and destroying some of them. Leonard rises and takes a cigarette from the box.
Poor Robbie Ralph has got neuritis.
Leonard lighting his cigarette.
Zoe.
Eh?
I was going to tell you. I dined at the Carlton last night.
Oh?
With Cossey Rawlings. Guess who was there?
Don't know.
He didn't see me. He was at a table the other side of the room.
Zoe, holding her breath.
Theodore.
Yes.
She throws the pieces of a letter into the wastepaper basket and leans back in her chair.
How did he look?
Leonard curling his lip.
I didn't study his appearance.
He wasn't by himself?
Hardly.
That woman?
Leonard nodding.
Same lady.
Simply the two?
Leonard sitting upon the settee on the right.
The two turtle doves.
After a brief silence, she pushes her letters from her, rises and moves about the room quietly, but agitatedly.
Who is this creature?
I've told you, and Jim told you on Sunday.
Annerly.
Her husband was a Major Annerly, Frank Annerly. He divorced her over a man of the name of Bettison.
Where's he?
He's dead. She's been through a good many hands since.
Oh.
Fred Wishart was one, and Todd Arnold.
She's quite young, isn't she?
Looks a baby.
Ha!
I should put her at 30.
Pretty? They all are.
Passable.
Zoe behind the chair on the left of the oblong table.
Do you think she's with him?
Not regularly. She's still living in Egerton Crescent, according to Cossey.
Zoe gripping the back of the chair.
She'll ruin him. She'll ruin him, Len.
Oh, I dare say there'll be a bit left when she's done with him.
There are other ways of dragging a man down besides through his pocket. Jim Mallandane says she's a vampire.
Why should you worry yourself?
I don't want him to come to grief. Why should I?
If he does, you've nothing to reproach yourself with.
Zoe giving him a swift look.
What?
Oh, you know what I mean. Nothing that occurred before he took himself off.
Zoe moving to the oblong table with a long-drawn sigh.
Ah.
sitting, her elbows on the table, leaning her head on her hand.
It will always be on my conscience that I drove him away.
You didn't drive him away.
I did.
You were quite justified in doing it anyhow. He made your life a burden to you.
I might have been more patient with him. I might have waited.
Waited?
Waited till we'd got through the middle period of our lives.
Raising her head.
Peter warned us the very day we parted.
Peter?
Mid-channel. We should soon have reached the other side.
There's a limit to human endurance. You'd passed it.
Zoe, staring before her.
It seems to me now there wasn't so very much for me to put up with. Not so very much.
Rising and walking to the back of the settee on which Leonard is sitting.
There's a lot of good in him, really. After all, he only needed managing, humoring.
Leonard starting up and turning to her.
Upon my soul, Zoe. You're discovering no end of fine qualities in him suddenly.
Am I?
You hadn't a decent word for him when we were in Italy. Now he's perfect.
Zoe facing him.
No, he's not.
Sounds like it.
Neither he nor you. You can be just as unkind to me as he ever was.
I?
Yes, and with all his faults, he did try to take care of me, to keep me from harm.
Her eyes ablaze.
My God, what have you done?
They remain confronting one another for a moment without speaking. Then he turns away abruptly and picks up his hat and cane. She runs after him and clings to him.
No, don't be hasty. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it.
Leonard endeavoring to free himself.
Let me go.
Oh, no, I'm not well today.
I'll come back when you're better tempered.
I am better tempered. Look, it's all over.
Coaxing him to give up his hat and cane.
Lenny dear, Lenny.
Placing the hat and cane upon the writing table, she takes her handkerchief from her bag and dries her eyes. He sits in the armchair near the glazed door, sulkily.
Now you're beginning to see what sort of a time poor Theo had with me.
Oh, can't you leave off talking about him for a single second?
Zoe coming to him meekly.
I beg your pardon, dear.
You've got that fellow on the brain.
Zoe standing behind him.
You started it by telling me of last night.
Why the deuce shouldn't I tell you of last night? Do sit down.
She sits near him upon the fauteuil stool.
I can't make you out, Zoe. This woman's only what we've been waiting for. I've said all along he'd soon give you an opportunity of divorcing him. She completes your case for you.
Yes.
You ought to be tremendously obliged to Jim for being the first to open your eyes. My eyes, too, to what's going on. Instead of which you're upset by it. And now, because I've seen Blundell and the lady together, I'm favoured by hearing Mr. B described as a model husband.
Leonard changing his tone.
When do you interview your lawyers?
I haven't written to them yet.
You were to do it after I left you on Monday.
I've been feeling so cheap, Len.
We shall be grey-haired before we're married at this rate.
She lays her hand on his, appeasingly. He retains her hand.
I believe you'll have to go through the form of trying to compel Blundell to return to you. Of course, he'll refuse. Meanwhile, we must have the lady's house watched, or Blundell's flat. I shouldn't be surprised if he'd arrange that part of the business with you to save trouble and expense. Drop a line to Maxwell's today, will you?
Yes.
Or ring them up. They'll be able to get out tomorrow. Or one of them would wait on you.
Yes.
That's right, old girlie. Kiss me.
They kiss quickly and cautiously, without ardor.
Sorry.
Zoe turning to him.
Lenny.
What?
Don't forget Perugia.
Oh, yes. Curse the place. Let's forget Perugia. I was off my head there. I behaved like a blackguard. You needn't be continually throwing it in my teeth.
No, I'm not scolding you again. What I mean is, you're breaking your word to me at Perugia. Staying in the same hotel.
Well?
If Theodore's solicitors got a hold of that.
Leonard rising and walking away.
Yes, but they won't get hold of it.
Zoe twisting herself round towards him.
You remember our meeting Claude Lowenstein at the railway station at Arezzo?
I explained to him that my being in the train with you was pure chance. I made that square.
He was going to Perugia, to the Brufani.
Rising.
He may have been suspicious. He may have inquired.
Even that little swine wouldn't tell tales.
Zoe coming to him.
Then there's Lena. They might pump Lena.
My dear girl, all of this would be very terrible if Blundell wasn't as anxious to get rid of you as we are to get rid of him. No, you take my word for it. He won't defend. His game is to be free at any price.
To marry again, perhaps.
Probably.
Zoe clenching her hands.
Ah, no.
Leonard, his brow darkening again.
Doesn't that please you? There's no satisfying you, Zoe.
She leaves him and paces the room distractedly.
A minute ago you were frightened lest he should be ruined by Mrs. Annerly.
I couldn't bear the idea of another woman being a better wife to him than I was. I couldn't bear it, Lenny.
Why, what concern would it be of yours?
With a gesture as the glazed door opens.
Shh!
Warren appears. Warren to Zoe.
I beg your pardon, ma'am. Mr. Mottram.
Zoe uttering a little eager cry.
Ah!
He'll call again, ma'am, if you're engaged.
Did you say I had anybody with me?
No, ma'am.
Zoe, after a slight pause, indicating the adjoining room.
Is that room still covered up?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, show him in there for a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
He withdraws, closing the door. Zoe to Leonard.
He'd better not find you here so early.
Why need you bother yourself with old Peter this morning?
Zoe bringing Leonard his hat and cane.
I haven't seen him since January. Don't look so cross.
Caressing his cheek.
Are you engaged to lunch anywhere?
No.
Will you eat your lunch with me?
He nods. She takes a powder puff from her bag and, looking into the hand mirror, hurriedly removes the traces of her tears. While she is thus occupied, Leonard listens at the nearer door on the right. Leonard leaving the door.
He's there.
Warren reappears. Warren to Zoe.
Mr. Mottram is in the next room, ma'am.
Thank you.
Warren withdraws. Zoe to Leonard, accompanying him to the glazed door.
Go into the park and sit under the trees. Blow a kiss for me to all the kitties.
She watches him disappear down the corridor. Then, having closed the glazed door, she opens the further door on the right.
Peter?
Peter out of sight.
My dear lady.
Zoe going into the next room.
Why on earth have they put you into this dismal room? Come into the light.
Returning with him, her arm tucked through his.
Oh, my dear Peter. My dear Peter.
Ah, yes. A nice way to serve a pal.
Zoe closing the door.
How did you...
Jim Melendane dropped in at the office this morning.
They leave the door.
He traveled with you from Paris on Sunday.
I collided with him at the Gare du Nord.
And this is Wednesday.
Zoe withdrawing her arm.
I funked sending for you. That's a fact.
Funked it?
Zoe with the air of a child in disgrace.
Your letters to me have been awfully sweet, but I know you despise me for making a muck of things.
Ah, Mrs. Zoe.
And I'm a rather sick rabbit, Peter.
Turning away.
A sick rabbit has only one desire, to hide in its burrow.
Facing him.
My heart bounded when you were announced, though.
Peter following her.
You don't look very fit. Seen a doctor?
I've let Lena call in Rashleigh to humor her.
Sitting on the settee on the right.
And I've promised to swallow his pigwash.
What'd he say?
Chill, but...
Raising her eyes to his.
Between ourselves?
Honor.
Zoe with quivering lips.
Life, dear old chum.
Ain't much in it?
Damn little.
Putting her hair back from her brow.
Can't sleep, Peter.
Oh, Lord.
I tumble into bed at 12, 1, 2. I get an hour's stupor from sheer fatigue, and then I'm wide awake, thinking. Then dressing gown and slippers and the cigarettes, and it's to and fro, up and down, smoke, 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 often till the servants start brushing the stairs. No game, eh?
How long is this?
It began at...
Checking herself.
Oh, a devil of a while.
With a shiver.
But I'm worse now I've set foot again in this house.
Peter eyeing her keenly.
Ghosts?
Avoiding his gaze, she stretches out her hand towards the cigarette box. He pushes the box beyond her reach. She makes a grimace, and there is a pause.
Zoe?
Well?
Why shouldn't you pick up the pieces?
Pick up the pieces?
You and Theodore.
Oh, don't be funny, Peter.
I'm not funny. I'm as serious as the clown at the circus.
Another pause.
Write to him, or give me a message to take to him. See him.
She gets to her feet and attempts to pass Peter. He detains her, and she sinks back among her pillows.
You ridiculous man. Pick up the pieces, as if that were possible.
Oh, the valuable family china is in a good many fragments, I admit. But there are the fragments, lying on the carpet. They can be collected, fitted together.
Zoe with a sudden gesture of entreaty.
Oh, for God's sake, Peter.
Why, I'm suggesting nothing unusual.
Zoe repeating her gesture.
Shh.
Go into the homes of 3/5 of the married people you know. I know. And you'll find some imposing specimens of porcelain that won't bear inspecting very narrowly.
Zoe waving the subject away.
Shush, shush.
Only yesterday afternoon I was calling at a house in... never mind the district. I was wandering round the drawing-room, looking at the bric-a-brac, and there, on a Louis Quatorze's console table, were as handsome a pair of old Chinese jars, genuine Mings, as ever I've met with. Such a superb glaze they've got, such a depth of color. They appear to be priceless, perfect, till you examine them closely. And then, my dear Zoe, they're cracked. They've both had a nasty knock at some time or another. They're scarred shockingly with rivets and cement. And while I was shedding tears over 'em, in sailed Madam, smiling and holding out her hand to me. She'd been upstairs, rubbing carmine on her lips.
You horror.
How kind of me to call, and how wild Tom would be at missing me. To the casual observer, she's the happiest woman going, and Tom, who strolled in just as I was leaving, might be the most domesticated of husbands. You follow me? You grasp the poetic allegory? Those faulty old Mings are emblematic of the establishment they adorn. Mr. and Mrs. Tom fell out years ago. They turned against each other one fine day, in mid-channel, and hadn't the sense to kiss and be friends on landing. Their lives are as damaged as those wounded crocks of theirs on the console table. Well, but ain't it wiser to repair the broken china rather than chuck the bits into the dustbin? It's still showy and effective at a distance, and there are cases, rare but they exist, where the mending's been done so neatly that the flaws are almost imperceptible.
Seating himself opposite Zoe.
Zoe?
Yes, Peter.
Peter leaning forward.
I believe yours is one of the cases, yours and Theodore's, where the mending would be exceptionally successful.
What do you mean?
My dear, old Theo is as miserable over this affair as you are.
Zoe attempting a disdainful smile.
Nonsense.
Oh, no, it ain't nonsense.
What makes you think that?
Between ourselves,
Honor.
he shows it in all manner of ways. Neglects his business. Ain't much good at it when he doesn't. Is losing his grip. Looks confoundedly ill. Is ill. Altogether, he's a different man from the man he was, even when matters were at boiling point here.
Zoe locking and unlocking her fingers.
Does he ever speak of me?
Oh, Lord, yes.
Not kindly?
Very, very kindly.
Zoe, after a silence, as if in pain.
Oh.
She rises, passes him, and goes to the other side of the room, where she moves from one piece of furniture to another, aimlessly.
What's he say about me?
Peter not turning.
Frets about you. Wonders how you're getting along. Wonders as to the state of your finances. Can't bear the idea of your being in the least pinched. Wants to help you.
He's extremely generous.
Theo never was anything else.
Zoe, her eyes flashing.
His own expenses must be pretty considerable just now, too.
Peter pricking up his ears.
Must they?
With great artlessness.
Why?
Oh, do you imagine I live with wool in my ears?
Peter over his shoulder.
Wool?
This woman he's continually with.
Peter's face is still averted from Zoe. At this juncture his eyes open widely, and his mouth shapes to a whistle.
This Mrs. What's her name? Annerly.
Pacing the room.
A notorious woman. A woman without a shred of character. And any man's woman.
Peter settling his features and turning his chair towards Zoe, in a tone of expostulation.
Oh.
A baby-faced thing. 7 years younger than I am. Precisely the class of goods a man of Theo's age flies at.
Oh.
They're rather costly articles, aren't they?
My dear Mrs. Zoe.
Oh, don't you pretend to be so innocent, Peter. You know jolly well he's all over the place with her. They were at Hurlingham together Saturday week.
I say.
And they dine tete-a-tete at the Savoy, Ritz's, the Carlton.
Who supplies the information?
They were at the Carlton last night.
Who's told you that?
She pulls herself up. Peter, curiously.
Who?
Zoe, moistening her lips.
Oh, I first heard of it from Jim Mallandane. He was full of it on board the boat on Sunday.
Was he?
Rising lazily.
A busy gentleman, Jim.
It was Jim who met them at Hurlingham. Had tea with them.
Peter, curiously again.
But it can't be Jim who's blabbed about last night.
Why?
Peter shrugging his shoulders.
He happened to mention this morning that he was with a party at Jules'.
Zoe, confused.
No, it isn't from Jim that I've got that.
Throwing herself into the armchair near the glazed door.
Oh, but really it's a matter of supreme indifference to me, Peter, my dear boy, whom Theodore entertains at the Carlton, or whom he entertains at his flat.
Peter coming to her.
My dear Zoe.
His flat. I hear it's quite sumptuous. After his pathetic yearnings for peace and quiet in a garret, he sets up, within a month of our separating, in an enormous flat in Cavendish Square. I received that bit of news when I was in Florence. I was intensely amused. Oh, let him wallow in his precious flat.
My dear lady.
Zoe, her hand to her brow, exhausted.
Drop it, Peter. Drop it.
I ask you, a liberal-minded person, what would become of friendship as an institution if men and women couldn't be pals without having the tongue of scandal wagged at 'em? The world would be intolerable. It ain't all marmalade as it is. But if a fellow can't take the fresh air in the company of a female in Hurlington, or give her a bite of food at a restaurant—
Zoe, her head against the back of her chair, her eyes closed.
Ah, la, 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 la.
As for this Mrs. Annerly—
He again purses his mouth, and is evidently in a difficulty. Zoe, her eyes still shut.
Well?
It's true she chucked Annerly for another chap. I don't condone an act of that description, except that I knew Annerly, and if ever there was a dull dog—
Was he duller than Theo?
Oh, go on with you. And since then she's been a trifle flighty, perhaps, now and again.
With a gulp.
But today she might be your maiden aunt.
You humbug, Peter.
Peter sitting beside her upon the fauteuil stool.
Oh, I'm not maintaining that we men always select our woman pals from the right basket. I'm not saying that we don't make asses of ourselves occasionally, sometimes from sentiment, sometimes from vanity, sometimes from various causes. But the same remark applies to you women over your men pals.
Laying a hand on her arm.
For instance—
She opens her eyes.
For instance, here you are, throwing stones at old Theo with regard to Alice Annerly. My dear, there are a few panes of glass in the house you live in, bear in mind.
She sits upright, looking at him.
In the house I?
Mrs. Zoe, what you did when you were under your husband's protection is one thing. What you do now is another bag of nuts entirely. And a woman situated as you are ought to be careful of retaining a cub among her intimates.
A cub?
Cub.
To whom are you alluding?
Lenny Ferris.
Lenny?
It ain't an agreeable job, pitching into a fellow you've been on good terms with. But the fact remains, to put it mildly, that Master Lenny's a stupid, blundering cub.
He's nothing of the kind. What has he done that you should abuse him?
It's he that's told you that Theodore was at the Carlton last night, ain't it?
She drops her eyes.
Been here this morning.
Zoe raising her eyes boldly.
Yes.
The sick rabbit doesn't hide in her burrow from everybody.
How?
I saw your lips make an L just now, before you could put the stopper on.
You ought to have been a professional detective.
Peter scowling.
Ferris has kept out of my way lately, or I—
If he has run in here for a moment to ask whether I am back, is there anything particularly cubbish in that?
It wasn't that I was referring to.
No?
I was referring to his having the damned presumption to dance attendance on you in Italy.
Italy?
He was at Perugia while you were there.
Oh, Perugia.
Peter with a shrug.
And other places, I assume.
Zoe, after a pause, pulling herself together.
Ho-ho!
Mimicking Peter.
And who supplies the information?
Peter waves the question from him.
Lowenstein, by any chance? Claude Lowenstein?
Peter, looking down his nose, is silent. She rises and walks away from him.
The hound! The little hound!
Lowenstein came across you both at some railway station. He arrived at Perugia the day you left.
Zoe pacing the room on the right.
The contemptible little hound!
He put up at the Buffani, too.
Zoe stopping in her walk, under her breath.
Master Lenny might at least have had the common decency to quarter himself in another hotel.
The Buffani is the most comfortable,
A pause.
I suppose it was thoughtless of Lenny.
Cub.
Zoe approaching Peter.
Does Theodore know?
Peter nodding.
Lowenstein went to him with it.
A busy gentleman, Claude Lowenstein. It was all my fault, Peter. If anybody's to blame, I am. I wrote to the boy from Florence, complaining of feeling lonely.
That doesn't excuse him.
Zoe touching Peter's shoulder with the tips of her fingers.
What does Theodore...
He's savage.
Savage?
Peter rising.
He'd like to punch Ferris's head, as I should.
Savage? He's jealous, then.
A shrug from Peter. Her eyes light up.
Jealous? Peter, no man's jealous over a woman unless he cares for her.
Plucking at his sleeve.
Peter!
You've heard me say old Theo's miserable. Desperately wretched.
He's grown fond of me again. Fond of me.
My dear, you and he have never left off being fond of one another, actually. As I warned you, you've only been tossing about, both of you, on a bit of troubled water.
She stares at him for a moment with an expressionless face, and then, as if stupefied, seats herself in the chair on the left of the oblong table. Peter standing before her.
Well, at any rate, you'll let this Italian business be a lesson to you not to rush at conclusions respecting other people. So, come now, won't you try to patch it up? I'll bet my new hat Theodore'll meet you halfway. Zoe
locking and unlocking her fingers again.
Peter?
Eh?
You're Mr. and Mrs. Tom. The world perhaps never heard of their fallout.
What of that?
Everybody is aware of the split between me and Theo.
Everybody? A handful. Besides, nothing is even a 9-day wonder in these times. Will you do it?
Zoe suddenly starting up and walking away to the left.
Oh, no. I can't.
Peter following her.
Can't?
I can't, Peter.
Peter taking her by the arms.
Oh.
I'm sure it wouldn't answer. I'm sure.
My dear girl.
Oh, don't.
Escaping from him and crossing to the right.
Oh, leave me alone.
Warren enters at the glazed door. Warren to Zoe.
Miss Pierpont is downstairs, ma'am.
Zoe seizing upon the interruption.
Ah, yes.
I'm to give you her love, ma'am, and if it isn't convenient for you to see her...
It is quite convenient, quite.
Warren withdraws, closing the door.
I'm awfully sorry, my dear Peter, but this child wants to consult me about something important.
Giving him her hands.
I must kick you out. You don't feel hurt, do you?
Confound Miss Pierpoint. Zoe.
What?
You'll think it over?
Zoe putting her hand to his lips. Peter holding her hand.
No. Think it over. Ask me to dine with you one night next week.
Monday, Tuesday?
Monday.
But I shall lay in a chaperone for the occasion.
Rats. How can I talk to you before a chaperone?
She runs to the glazed door, opens it, and going into the corridor, calls loudly and excitedly.
Ethel!
Ethel appears in the corridor, and Zoe embraces her with an excess of warmth.
My dear Ethel, my dear child.
They kiss.
What ages since we have seen each other.
Bringing Ethel into the room.
You know Mr. Mottram?
Ethel going to Peter.
Oh, yes.
Peter shaking hands with her.
How do you do, Miss Pierpoint? And au revoir.
Ethel as he moves towards the glazed door.
I'm not driving you away.
I forgive you.
He rejoins Zoe, who is near the door. Ethel lays her sunshade upon the writing table. Zoe to Peter.
Monday night?
Monday night.
8:30.
Peter at the door.
A chaperone?
The proprieties.
You cat.
He goes. Zoe closing the door. She leans wearily against the door for a moment, and again puts back her hair from her brow. Her manner now becomes strained, artificial, distrait. She advances to Ethel.
Now then.
Ethel turns to her.
Let me have a good squint at you. How's your dear mother?
Ethel, who is pale and sad-looking.
Mother's flourishing.
Leaving the writing table.
You're not angry with me for rushing you at this hour?
Isn't this our old hour for a chat?
We were at Madame Levine's yesterday, Mother and I, ordering frocks, and Camille, the skirt-maker, told us you were back. Zoe, how unkind you've been.
Am I in your bad books?
Why have you treated us so horridly?
Well, my dear child, the fact is, it suddenly dawned on me that perhaps your mother mightn't consider me any longer a suitable pal for her daughter.
Oh!
Heaps of folks, you know, haven't much use for the single married woman.
But we both showed you that our sympathies were on your side.
Yes, we often sympathize with people we wouldn't touch with the end of a wet umbrella.
Ethel coming close to Zoe.
So that's the reason you left off answering my letters?
Certainly.
And why we hear of your return through fat old Camille?
Fingering a jewel at Zoe's neck.
You've had a pleasant time abroad.
Zoe, taking Ethel's face between her hands abruptly.
How thin your face is, Ethel.
Ethel gazing at Zoe.
Your cheeks are not as round as they were.
Zoe leading Ethel to the settee on the right.
I caught a rotten chill on board the boat, and have been beastly seedy.
Putting Ethel on the settee.
What's wrong with you? That's a dreary note I've had from you this morning.
Ethel tracing a pattern on the floor with the point of her shoe.
Now I'm with you, I can't...
Zoe looking down upon her.
You want advice, you say?
Yes.
Or a good shaking?
I suppose I ought to be ashamed of myself for being so, but I'm very unhappy, Zoe.
Unhappy?
It's no use my attempting to talk to Mother. Mother is a person who prides herself on her level-headedness. Anybody with a fixed income and a poor circulation can be level-headed. It only means you're fish-like. But you're warm-blooded and human.
Well?
Zoe?
Yes?
Ethel, her eyes on the ground.
Did you ever suspect that there was anything between Mr. Ferris and me?
Zoe calmly steadying herself.
Mr. Ferris. And you?
An attachment.
My dear child!
Ethel looking up.
Oh, don't keep on calling me child. I'm nearly 26.
Taking Zoe's hands.
Didn't you ever guess?
He always seemed delighted to meet you here.
He's one of your boys. Hasn't he ever talked to you about me?
Of course, frequently.
Never as if he were in love with me?
Zoe withdrawing her hands.
I can't say that it struck me.
You didn't know, perhaps, that at the beginning of the year, before you went away, he was a great deal in Sloane Street.
Why, yes, he used to have tea with you and your mother sometimes, didn't he?
Turning from Ethel.
How did I hear that?
Ethel hanging her head.
Very often he came early in the afternoon, by arrangement with me, while Mother was resting.
Ha! Ethel!
Yes, worthy of a vulgar shop-girl, wasn't it?
Zoe sitting in the chair opposite Ethel.
He came early in the afternoon.
And we sat together in the firelight. I'm sure he loved me, Zoe, then.
And you?
Ethel, her elbows on her knees, hiding her face in her hands.
Oh, I'm a fool, an awful fool.
Zoe, after a silence.
Did he ever hint at marriage?
Ethel nods without uncovering her face.
He did.
Ethel raising her head.
Well, we got as far as agreeing that a small house in the country near his aunt would be an ideal state of existence. And there matters broke off.
What?
All of a sudden there was a change in his manner towards me. He still called on us, but not so regularly, and by degrees his visits ceased altogether.
She passes her hand across her eyes angrily, and stamping her foot, rises and moves to the other side of the room.
The last time I spoke to him was one morning in the Row. Mother and I were walking and came face to face with him. That was at the end of February. He was out of sorts, he said, and was going into Devonshire. I presume he went.
Turning to Zoe, who, with parted lips, is staring guiltily at the carpet.
He's in London now, though. I saw him about a fortnight ago at the opera. I was with the Ormerods in their box. He was in the stalls.
Touching Zoe's shoulder.
Zoe.
Yes?
He's so altered.
Altered?
In his appearance. You recollect how boyish and fresh-looking he was?
Yes.
All that's gone. He's become... Oh, but I dare say you've seen him since you've been home.
Just for a minute or two.
You must have noticed.
Now that you mention it...
I watched him through the opera glass several times during the evening. He looks like a lost soul.
I've never made the acquaintance of a lost...
Ethel, after a pause.
Zoe, do you think anything has happened to Lenny Ferris?
Happened?
Anything bad?
Bad?
Men's lives are constantly being wrecked by racing or cards or...
Half turning from Zoe.
Oh, I oughtn't to know about such things, but one doesn't live in the dark. He may have got mixed up with some woman of the wrong sort, mayn't he?
Zoe rising quickly and walking away to the left.
I really can't discuss topics of that kind with you, Ethel.
Ethel wistfully.
No, but if he is in any scrape, any entanglement, and one could help him...
Zoe at the writing table, taking up a bottle of salts.
Help him?
Save him?
Zoe sniffing the salts.
How romantic you are.
Am I?
Her elbows on the back of the armchair by the oblong table.
Zoe, would it be possible, in your opinion, would it be possible for me to see him?
Zoe sitting in the chair at the writing table.
See Mr. Ferris?
Ethel plucking at the cover of the chair on which she is leaning.
Here, in your house, or elsewhere, see him and offer him my friendship. A sister's friendship. You could manage it.
My dear.
Oh, yes, I'm lacking in dignity, aren't I? And self-respect.
Coming forward.
I've told myself that 1,000 times. But there are quite enough dignified people in the world without me, and if I could influence Lenny, anyone might have my dignity for 2pence.
Influence him?
For his good. Oh, I don't want to boast, but I'm a straight, clean girl, and it may be that, at this particular moment of his life, the more he sees of women like you and me, the better. However, if you tell me the idea's improper, I'll accept it from you.
Approaching Zoe.
I'll take anything from you. But don't tell me that, if you can avoid it. Give me the opportunity, if you can, of showing him that I'm different from most girls, that I'm above petty, resentful feelings.
Bending over Zoe.
Zoe.
Lena enters at the further door on the right, carrying a silver salver, on which are a dose of medicine in a medicine glass and a dish of sweetmeats.
Your medicine.
Closing the door.
Good morning, Miss Pierpoint.
Ah, Lena.
Zoe to Ethel, rising hastily.
Excuse me.
Lena advances, and Zoe goes to her, and with a shaking hand drinks the medicine. Lena to Zoe.
Good gracious, how queer you look.
To Ethel.
She's doing too much today, Miss Pierpoint.
Going to Ethel.
Dr. Rashley says she's frightfully below par.
Ethel picking up her sunshade.
What a shame of me.
Running to Zoe.
I won't stay another minute.
Zoe sitting on the settee on the right.
I am a little fatigued.
I ought to have seen it.
I'll write to you.
They kiss.
My love to your mother.
And when you are well enough,
I'll call upon her.
Ethel to Lena, who precedes her into the corridor.
No, stop with Mrs. Blundell. I'm so sorry, Lena.
Lena and Ethel talk together for a little while in undertones. Then the girl disappears. Lena returns, shutting the door.
Silly chatterbox.
Finding Zoe lying at full length upon the settee, her head buried in a pillow.
Why do you tire yourself like this? Shall I fetch you some brandy?
No.
He's in the house again.
Who?
Mr. Ferris.
Zoe raising herself.
Mr. Ferris.
Lena with a jerk of her head in the direction of the next room.
In there.
Zoe sits upright.
Warren's making himself beautiful and Clara answered the door. She thought you were by yourself and let him come up.
Zoe gets to her feet.
I was just bringing you your medicine and met him.
Zoe goes to the writing table, takes up the hand mirror, and puts her hair in order.
Lucky I had heard that Miss Pierpoint was here. He didn't want to see her. Another second?
That'll do. Take care I'm not interrupted again.
Ah, now. Mayn't I get rid of him?
No.
Turning.
Run away, please.
Oh, very good.
Picking up the salver which she has placed upon a piece of furniture near the glazed door.
You will do exactly as you choose.
In the corridor.
I declare I'd rather look after a pack of unruly children any day in the week.
She closes the door. Zoe glances over her shoulder to assure herself that the woman has left the room, and then, with a fierce light in her eyes, goes to the nearer door on the right and throws it open, peeking into the adjoining room.
I'm alone.
She moves from the door as Leonard, still carrying his hat and cane, enters.
By George, that was a narrow squeak.
Closing the door.
Whatever possessed you to be at home to the Pierpoint girl this morning?
I didn't expect you back before lunch.
Leonard putting his hat and cane on the chair at the nearer end of the settee on the right.
I was talking to a man at Victoria Gate, and I saw Peter driving away in a taxi.
Facing her.
I got sick of the park.
Seeing that something is amiss.
Hello?
A pause.
Anyone been running me down?
She advances to him, and drawing herself to her full height, regards him scornfully. Zoe making a motion with her hands as if she would strike him.
You.
Dropping her hands to her side.
Oh, cruel, cruel.
Walking away from him.
Cruel.
What's cruel? Who's cruel?
Zoe at the further end of the room on the right.
Ah.
Leonard moving to the left.
Oh, come. Let's have it out. Let's have it out.
Shh. Don't raise your voice here.
Somebody's been talking against me. Ethel Pierpoint?
Zoe coming to the oblong table.
You've behaved abominably to this girl.
Ha! It is Miss Pierpoint.
No, she hasn't spoken a word against you, but she's opened her heart to me.
Leonard going to Zoe.
You've known all about me and Ethel.
It's a lie. How much have I known? I knew that you were sizing her up, as you expressed it, but I never surmised that you'd as good as proposed marriage to her.
I told you months ago, admitted it, that I'd make myself a bit of an idiot over Ethel. I fancied you'd tumble to the state of things.
Did you? Why do you think, maniac as I was when you came through to me to Florence, do you think I'd have allowed you to remain near me for 5 minutes if I'd known as much as I do now?
Look here, Zoe.
Oh, you're a cruel fellow. You've been cruel to her and cruel to me. I believe you're capable of being cruel to any woman who comes your way. Still, she's the fortunate one. Her scratches'll heal. But I...
Sitting at the oblong table and hitting it with her fist.
I loathe myself more than ever. More than ever.
Leonard, after a pause.
Zoe, I wish you'd try to be a little fair to me.
Fair?
Perhaps I did go rather further with Ethel Pierpoint than I led you to understand.
Oh.
I own up. Yes, but What prospect was there, when I was thick with her, of your being free of Blundell? None. And what was I to you? Merely a pal of yours, one of your tame robins, one of a dozen. But I had come to a loose end in my life. It was simply the fact that there was no prospect for me with you that drove me to consider whether I had better settle down to a humdrum with a decent girl of the Ethel breed. Otherwise, do you imagine I'd have crossed the street to speak to another woman?
Leaving Zoe.
Oh, you might do me common justice. If circumstances have made a cad of me, am I all black? Can't you find any good in me?
Turning to her.
What did I tell you at Perugia?
Zoe rising.
Ah, don't.
That I'd been in love with you from the day I first met you. From the very moment Mrs. Hope Cornish introduced me to you at Sandown. Well, isn't there anything to my credit on that score? Didn't I keep my secret? For 4 years I kept it. Though with matters as they often were between you and Blundell, many a man might have thought you ripe grapes.
Walking across to the right.
Only once I was off my guard with you, when I laid hold of you and begged you, whatever happened, never to...
Zoe leaning against the table, her back to him.
Yes, I meant it. As God hears me, I meant it. If anybody had told me that afternoon that it was I who... Oh, hang.
Sitting upon the settee.
But what I want to impress upon you is that, if I were quite the low scoundrel you make me out to be, I shouldn't have gone through what I have gone through these past 4 years and more. Great Scott, it's been nothing but hell. Hot hell all the time. 4 whole years of pretending I was just an ordinary friend of yours. Hell. 4 years of reasoning with myself, preaching to myself. Hell. That awful month after Blundell left you, when you'd gone to Italy and I was in London. Worse than hell. My chase after you, our little tour together, my struggle even then to play the correct game. And I did struggle. Hell. And since then, hell.
His elbows on his knees, digging his knuckles into his forehead.
Hell all the time. Hell all the time.
There is a silence. And then, with a look of settled determination, she comes to him slowly and lays her hands upon his head.
Poor boy. I'm sorry I blackguarded you.
Sitting in the chair opposite to him.
Len.
Eh?
Let's part.
Leonard raising his head.
Part?
Say goodbye to each other.
Meeting his eyes.
Go back to that girl.
To Ethel?
Take up with her again.
Oh, stop it, Zoe.
She's devoted to you, and she's sound right through, if ever a girl was. She's one of the best, Len.
Suppose she is.
Be careful that she doesn't guess I've given her away.
He rises impatiently. She rises with him and holds him by the lapels of his jacket.
Tell her, she's sure to ask you, tell her that you haven't seen me since last Monday, nor had a line from me. Fake up some tale to account for your breaking off with her. You were in doubt whether you'd coin enough to marry on.
Leonard, who has become thoughtful.
Zoe?
Yes?
Leonard looking her full in the face.
Are you giving me the boot?
Zoe releasing him and returning his gaze firmly.
Yes, I am.
Oh? What's your motive?
Motive?
What's behind all this?
I want you to be happy, Len. Really and truly happy. I believe you'd stand a jolly good chance of being so with Ethel Pierpoint. Never with me.
And you?
I?
What's to become of you? What are your plans for yourself?
Zoe avoiding his eyes.
Oh, don't you worry about me.
Rot.
Perhaps someday, when Theodore's tired of Mrs. Annerly, stranger things have happened.
Rot, I say.
She retreats a little.
Do you think you can drum me out like this?
Following her.
Have you got some other...
He checks himself. Zoe, confronting him.
Some other?
Never mind.
Out with it.
Some other fancy man in tow?
Ah, you brute.
Hitting him in the chest.
You brute.
Throwing herself into the armchair near the glazed door.
You coward! You coward!
There is a pause, and then he slouches up to her.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
He sits beside her upon the fauteuil stool.
Knock my damned head off. Go on. Knock my damned head off.
Zoe panting.
Well, we won't part on top of a row.
Dashing a tear away.
After all, why should you think better of me than that?
Zoe.
Shh, listen. Putting Ethel Pierpoint out of the question, did you ever picture to yourself what our married life would be?
What'd be?
The marriage of a woman of 7, nearly 8 and 30, to a man of 32. I do. I walk my bedroom half the night and act it all over to myself. And you've had the best of me, too. I'm not even a novelty to you. Why, of course you've realized what you've let yourself in for.
I take my oath.
Shh. When you're in front of your glass in the morning, what do you see?
See?
This girl has noticed the alteration in your looks. She took stock of you at the opera the other night.
Leonard passing his hands over his face consciously.
Men can't go to hell, Zoe, without getting a bit scorched.
Zoe imitating his action.
No, nor women either.
Turning to him.
But it's only quite lately that you've lost your bloom, Len.
Oh, naturally, I've been horribly bothered about you. About both of us. Since
your trip to Italy?
He nods.
Yes, and naturally you've told yourself, over and over again, the truth, since your trip to Italy.
Truth?
The simple truth, that you've got into a mess with a married woman.
I...
And that you must go through with it, at all costs.
I swear to you, Zoe.
Zoe touching his hand.
Oh, my dear boy, you haven't perhaps said these things to yourself in so many words, but they're at the back of your brain just the same.
She rises and crosses to the fireplace and rings 3 times. Leonard rising.
What are you doing?
Ringing for Lena, to tell her I'm not lunching downstairs.
My God, Zoe.
Zoe imperiously.
Be quiet.
Leonard shaking his fist at her.
You dare treat me in this way? You dare?
Zoe advancing.
Ah, I'm only hurting your pride a little. I'm only mortifying your vanity. You'll get over that in 24 hours.
Do you know what you are? Do you know what you make yourself by this?
Yes, what you made of me at Perugia, and at Siena, and at...
Suddenly clinging to him.
Lenny, kiss me.
Leonard pushing her from him.
Not I.
Ah, yes. Don't let's part enemies. It's goodbye, Lenny.
No.
Zoe struggling with him entreatingly.
Quick. It's for the last time. You'll never be alone with me again.
Her arms tightly round him.
It's for the last time.
Kissing him passionately.
Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Good luck to you.
She leaves him and sits at the writing table, where she makes a pretense of busying herself with her papers. Leonard, glancing expectantly at the glazed door between his teeth.
You...
Presently he goes to the chair on the right and snatches up his hat and cane. Lena enters at the glazed door. Lena to Zoe.
Is it me you have rung for?
Yes. Wait.
There is a pause. Struck by Zoe's tone and the attitude of the pair, Lena looks inquisitively at Leonard and Zoe out of the corners of her eyes. As if she guesses there has been a quarrel, Leonard moves towards the door. Leonard to Zoe.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Leonard to Lena as he passes her.
Good morning.
Good morning.
He departs and Lena quietly closes the door. Zoe rising.
Lena.
Yes?
Zoe walking across to the settee on the right.
I'm not coming down to the dining room.
Sitting.
Let me have a snack upstairs.
Very well.
That's all.
Lena withdraws, almost on tiptoe, and Zoe instantly produces her handkerchief and cries into it softly. Then she gets to her feet and searches for the cigarette box. Still shaken by little sobs, she puts the cigarette between her lips, and as she does so, the expression of her face changes and her body stiffens. Zoe, under her breath.
Oh.
After a moment's irresolution, she hurriedly dries her eyes and going to the glazed door, opens it and calls,
Lena! Lena!
Lena in the distance.
Yes?
Zoe returns to the oblong table and is lighting her cigarette when Lena reappears.
Lena?
Well?
I'll dress directly after lunch.
Lena coming to her, surprised.
Dress?
Yes. I'm going out this afternoon.
Going out? Why, you must be crazy.
End of the second act. Act 3 of Mid-Channel by Arthur Wing Pinero. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The third act. The scene is a fine, spacious room, richly furnished and decorated. In the center of the wall at the back is the fireplace, and on the left of the fireplace is a door which, when open, reveals part of a dining room. In the right-hand wall there is a bay window hung with lace and other curtains. Facing the window in the wall on the left is a double door opening into the room from a corridor. On either side of the fireplace there is an armchair, and between the fireplace and the dining-room door stands a small table on which are a decanter of whiskey, a siphon of soda water, and 2 or 3 tumblers. A grand piano and a music stool are in the right-hand corner of the room, and on the left of the piano is a settee. Some photographs are on the top of the piano. On the other side of the room there is a second settee, with a table at the nearer end of it. An armchair stands by this table, another at the further end of the settee. In the bay window there is a writing table with a writing chair before it, and on the writing table is a telephone instrument. Other articles of furniture, some pieces of sculpture, and some handsome lamps on pedestals fill spaces not provided for in this description. A scarf of mousseline de soie and a pair of white gloves lie on the chair on the right of the fireplace. The fireless grate is hidden by a screen, and through the lace curtains which are drawn over the window a fierce sunlight is seen. The door at the back is slightly ajar. The telephone bell rings, and presently Theodore Blundell enters at the door at the back and goes to the writing table. His step has become heavier, his shoulders are somewhat bent, and he looks a bad color. Theodore at the telephone.
Hello. Yes? I am Mr. Blundell? Oh, is that you, Peter? What? Want to see me? Anything wrong? Where are you? Where? Cafe Royal? Come along to me now, then. Oh, I say! Are you there?
Dropping his voice.
I say, Mrs. A is lunching with me. Mrs. A. Alice. No, but I thought I'd tell you. Goodbye.
He is about to return to the dining room when Mrs. Annerly appears in the doorway at the back. She is a pretty, charmingly dressed creature with classical, immobile features and a simple, virginal air. Mrs. Annerly advancing.
I've told Cole we'll have coffee in this room.
He nods and sits moodily upon the settee on the right. Resting her elbows on the back of the armchair at the further end of the settee on the left, she surveys her face in a tiny mirror, which she carries, with some other trinkets attached to a chain.
Who's that you were talking to on the phone, dear boy?
Theodore, who is smoking a big cigar.
Mottram?
What's he want?
Wants to see me about something.
Business?
Dunno.
He doesn't like poor little me.
Doesn't he?
You know he doesn't.
Arranging a curl.
That's why you gave him the tip that I'm lunching here.
Ho! Listeners, etc.
I couldn't help hearing you. Positively I couldn't.
Examining her teeth in the mirror.
He's one of your wife's tame cats, isn't he?
He's a friend of hers, yes.
Just a friend and nothing else?
Now you look here, Alice.
Cole, a manservant, enters from the dining room with the coffee and liqueurs. Mrs. Annerly takes a cup of coffee. Cole to Mrs. Annerly.
Brandy. Camel, ma'am.
No, thanks.
Theodore to Cole, who comes to him with the tray.
Leave it.
Cole places the tray on the top of the piano and is returning to the dining room.
Cole.
Yes, sir.
I'm expecting Mr. Mottram.
Very good, sir.
The man withdraws, closing the door. Theodore rises and pours some brandy into a large liqueur glass. Mrs. Annerly, who has seated herself upon the settee on the left.
What's the matter with you today, dear boy? You're as cross as two sticks.
Liver.
Mrs. Annerly sipping her coffee.
I don't wonder.
Why?
You're getting rather too fond of...
Pointing to the brandy.
Him.
It's false.
I've seen so much of that sort of thing in my time.
He makes a movement as if to put down his glass without drinking.
Still, I must say you've every excuse.
Alice.
What?
He gulps his brandy, puts the empty glass on the tray, and comes to her. Theodore is standing before her.
Alice, would you oblige me by refraining from making any allusion to my wife, direct or indirect, in the future? It annoys me.
Everything annoys you this afternoon.
You were at it last night, at the Carlton, and today, during lunch.
It was you who told me that little Jew chap had met her careering about Italy with young what's-his-name.
Theodore sits in the armchair at the further end of the settee and leans his head on his hand.
Ah, but that was in your loving days, when you used to confide in me.
I was in a rage and said a great deal more than I thought.
If you did, you needn't jump on me for trying to feel interested in you and your affairs.
Theodore facing her.
At any rate, understand me clearly, Alice, and then drop the subject. Mrs. Blundell and I are separated. She's gone one way, I another. There are faults on both sides, as usual, but I was mainly to blame. There's the thing in a nutshell.
This isn't in the least your old story.
Never mind my old story.
Extending a forefinger.
You forget the old story, my girl, if you wish our acquaintance to continue. D'ye hear?
Mrs. Annerly shaking herself.
You're a nasty savage.
As for that interfering cad Lowenstein, it unfortunately happens that one of Mrs. Blundell's characteristics is a habit of disregarding les convenances, a habit which I didn't go the right way to check. It's probable that, before she's done, she won't leave herself with as much reputation as would cover a sixpence. She's impulsive, reckless, a fool, but she's no worse.
Eyeing the stump of his cigar fiercely.
My wife's no worse. So hands off, if you please, in my presence. Whatever reports are circulated to her discredit, the man who speaks against her in my hearing is kicked for his pains, and the woman who does so, if she's under my roof, gets taken by the shoulders and shown the mat.
Looking at her.
Comprenez?
Mrs. Annerly pouting.
I should be a juggins if I didn't. Parfaitement, in my very best French.
Theodore rising and walking about.
That's settled then?
Mrs. Annerly, after a pause, rising and depositing her cup upon the table on the left.
Dear boy.
Theodore at the back.
Hey.
It was a regular cat and dog between you two at the end, wasn't it?
Theodore breaking out again.
It's no concern of yours whether it was or was not. I've asked you.
Mrs. Annerly crossing to the right with a shrug.
Oh!
Yes, it was.
Half sitting upon the back of the settee on the left.
I tired of her.
Oh, men do tire.
And she of me. We'd been married close upon 14 years.
Oh, well, come. That's a long while.
Theodore as much to himself as to her.
Our wedding day's on the 30th of this month.
Hitting the back of the settee softly with his fist.
We'd reached a time in our lives when we were in mid-channel.
Mid-channel?
Theodore rising.
Oh, you don't know anything about that.
There is a further silence. She sits upon the settee on the right, watching him as he moves about the room again.
Here.
Beckoning him with a motion of her head.
Here.
He goes to her. She looks up into his face.
Why don't you marry me, Theo?
Theodore staring at her.
Marry you?
You'd find me awfully easy to get on with.
Theodore turning from her.
Oh.
Wait, you might listen anyhow.
He turns to her.
I am awfully easy to get on with. And I'd be as strict as a nun, honest Injun. I treated Annerly pretty badly, but that's ancient history. I was only 17 when I married Frank, too inexperienced for words. I've learned a lot since.
Ha!
Now, don't be satirical.
Inviting him to sit by her side.
Theo!
He sits beside her.
I say, Barchav, I wish you would.
What?
Marry me. Really, I do.
A note of wistfulness in her voice.
I really do want to reestablish myself. My life these past few years has been frightfully unsatisfactory.
Theodore touching her dress sympathetically.
Ah.
And I'm a lady, remember? Giddy as I may have been. Put me in any society and I'm presentable, as far as manners go. I'd soon right myself with your assistance.
Slipping her arm through his.
I suppose under the circumstances you couldn't divorce her, could you?
What do you mean?
Your wife, over the Italian business.
Theodore jumping up.
Damn!
Oh, I beg your pardon. It slipped out.
He walks away to the table at the back and begins to mix himself a whiskey and soda.
I'm dreadfully grieved. Gospel I am.
Rising.
Don't, dear boy. Do leave that stuff alone.
He puts down the decanter and comes to the settee on the left.
I can't do more than apologize.
Theodore sitting.
Hold your tongue.
Mrs. Annerly sitting beside him.
No, but you could let her go for you, though. That could be fixed up. I'd even consent to be dragged into the case myself, if that would help matters forward. And goodness knows I've no ambition to appear in divorce court again. I hate the whole. You will consider it, won't you?
Consider what?
Marrying me. Just say you'll consider it, and I won't tease you any more today. You do owe me something, you know.
Oh, you?
Well, you have compromised me by being seen about with me at different places lately now, haven't you?
Theodore throws his head back and laughs boisterously.
There's nothing to laugh at. Perhaps I haven't a shred of character left in your estimation.
Ho-ho!
Mrs. Annerly rising.
I presume you think I'm a person who'll accept a dinner at a restaurant from any man who holds up a finger to me.
Why, my dear girl, you're always bothering me to take you to the cookshops.
Bothering?
Going to the chair on the right of the fireplace and gathering up her scarf.
Oh, you're too rude.
I was perfectly content with our quiet little meals here, or in Edgerton Crescent.
Yes, and to bore me to tears.
Bore?
Mrs. Annerly winding her scarf round her shoulders.
Bore, bore, bore.
Theodore scowling.
Oh, I bored you, did I?
Talking to me as you used to, like a sentimental young fellow of 25. Ridiculous.
picking up her gloves.
I want a taxicab.
Theodore rising.
Stop.
I've had quite sufficient of you for today.
Theodore with a set jaw.
I'm glad you've brought matters to a head, Ally. I've something to propose to you.
Mrs. Annerly pulling on a glove.
I've no desire to hear it.
Something that's been on my mind for, a month or more.
You can keep it to yourself. I'm not accustomed to being jeered at.
Theodore slowly walking over to the right.
I'm sorry if I've hurt your feelings.
It's the first time I've ever made advances to a man, and I assure you it'll be the last.
Ally.
Mrs. Annerly moving towards the double door.
Cole will get me a taxi.
Come here. Mrs.
Annerly halting behind the settee on the left with a twist of her body.
I shall not.
Theodore snapping his finger and thumb.
Ally.
She approaches him with assumed reluctance.
Ally, what'll you take?
Mrs. Annerly elevating her brows.
Take?
To put an end to this.
An end.
To end your boredom. And mine. Terminate our friendship.
Oh, you needn't cut up as rough as all this.
No, I'm not angry. I'm in earnest, though. Come, what'll satisfy you?
She curls her lip fretfully.
A man of my years deserves to pay heavily at this game. What'll make you easy and comfortable for a bit? I'll be liberal with you, my dear, and...
Offering his hand.
Shake hands.
She turns her shoulder to him.
Shake hands.
She gives him her hand sulkily.
And I'll ask you to forgive me.
Mrs. Annerly withdrawing her hand.
Oh, for goodness sake, don't let's have any more of that. You elderlies always wind up the same way.
He seats himself at the writing table and, unlocking a drawer, produces his checkbook.
Would a couple of $1,000 be of any service to you?
Mrs. Annerly opening her eyes widely.
A couple of?
Theodore preparing to write.
I mean it.
Mrs. Annerly breathlessly.
You don't.
He writes.
Why, of course it would.
Melting completely.
Oh, but it's too much. It is positively. I couldn't. And I've had such a lot out of you already. You are generous.
Behind his chair.
Fancy my being huffy with you just now.
Bending over him and arresting his pen.
Dear boy.
Hey?
Make it 3, will you?
He looks at her over his shoulder with a cynical smile as she retreats.
Oh, well, one isn't young and attractive forever, you know.
He finishes writing the check, and having locked up his checkbook methodically, rises and comes to her. Theodore giving her the check.
There you are.
Mrs. Annerly examining it.
You split the difference. You are kind. I didn't expect it in the least.
Folding the check neatly and finding a place for it in her bosom.
I am ashamed of myself for hinting so broadly. Thanks 100 times.
Blinking at him.
Shan't I miss you?
Cole enters at the double door, followed by Peter.
Mr. Mottram.
Theodore greeting Peter at the fireplace as Cole retires.
Hello.
Hello.
Bowing to Mrs. Annerly.
How do you do?
Mrs. Annerly, who has moved over to the right.
How do you do?
Theodore to Mrs. Annerly.
By the by, did you say you want a taxicab?
If I'm not troubling you.
Theodore goes out at the double door, closing it upon Peter and Mrs. Annerly. There is a pause. Mrs. Annerly, pulling on her second glove, looks out the window. Peter whistles silently. Peter, after a while.
Fine afternoon.
Delightful.
After another pause, turning to him.
How do you think he's looking?
Blundell? Seen him looking better.
Mrs. Annerly with a sigh. In a mincing voice, approaching Peter.
Mr. Mottram, will you excuse me for offering a suggestion?
Fire away.
Why don't you use her endeavours to bring Blundell and his wife together again?
Peter staring at her.
Eh?
It would be such a good thing, wouldn't it?
I agree with you. It would indeed.
I've done all I can to persuade him.
Peter's eyes open wider and wider. She busies herself daintily with her glove.
And now as he and I are breaking off with one another,
I beg pardon?
perhaps you'll take on the job and see what you can do.
Breaking off?
Yes. I can't stand the annoyance any longer.
Annoyance?
People are so spiteful. It's shocking, the ill-natured construction they put upon the most harmless little friendly acts. I admit I'm rather a careless woman. Haven't I suffered from it?
Then, do I happen, may I ask, to be assistant at the grand finale?
Certainly. Don't you try to pull my leg, Mr. Mottram, please.
She draws her skirt aside and passes him haughtily as Theodore returns. Then she goes out, followed by Theodore, who closes the door, whereupon Peter skips to the piano, seats himself at it, and strikes up a lively air. Presently Theodore reappears, shuts the door again, and resumes mixing his whiskey and soda.
Oof!
Peter takes his hands from the keyboard.
That's over.
Over?
You've seen the last of that lady as far as I'm concerned.
He comes forward carrying his tumbler as Peter rises.
What do you think?
Grinning.
She's been at me to marry her.
Not really.
To get rid of present ties and marry her.
When did she?
Just now. 5 minutes ago.
Struck by an odd expression in Peter's face.
Why? Has she been saying anything?
No, not a word.
Poor little devil.
He sits upon the settee on the left and drinks.
Poor, silly, little devil.
Peter coming to him.
And so you took the opportunity of,
Theodore nods.
Just so.
Ha! I expect I shall hear from her from time to time.
Till the end of your life.
Another nod from Theodore.
Or hers. And the nearer the end, the oftener you'll hear.
Well, she shall have a trifle whenever she wants it.
Looking at Peter.
That's the least we can do, old man.
Decidedly. That's the least we can do.
Theodore emptying his tumbler and jumping up.
Ugh.
Placing the glass upon the table at the end of the settee.
I'll burn some pastilles here later on.
Confronting Peter.
Yes, you can have your crow. You're entitled to it.
Crow?
Your crow over me. Everything's turned out as you predicted.
Oh, did I?
You know you did. It's when the sun's working round to the west. I often recall your damned words.
Ah, that day.
The day I left Lancaster Gate. It's when men are where we are now. You remember? It's when men are where we are now that they're most liable to fall into mischief.
Walking away.
God, the idiot I've made of myself.
He goes to the fireplace and leans upon the mantelpiece.
Theo?
Peter moving to the settee on the left.
Talking of Lancaster Gate, I've got a bit of news for you.
Sitting upon the settee.
She's home.
There is no response from Theodore.
Zoe, I'm speaking of. She's home.
Theodore leaving the fireplace.
Thank ye. I know.
You know?
I was there on Monday.
There?
Passing the house.
Signs of life in the windows?
Theodore nodding. Coming forward.
You've seen her?
This morning.
I was there again this morning.
Passing the house?
Theodore nodding.
You seem to take a great deal of exercise in that locality.
Theodore forcing a laugh.
Ha ha! Well, one had good times there as well as bad. And when one views it all from a distance...
The good times stand out?
Without replying, Theodore turns from Peter and sits upon the settee on the right. Theodore, after a pause.
How did you find her?
She ain't up to much.
What's...
Chill.
Doctor?
Peter nods.
Rashleigh?
That's the fella. Oh, it's nothing serious.
Chill? Ha! I'll be bound she caught it through doing something foolish.
Fidgeting with his hands.
She's nobody to look after her. Nobody to look after her.
Her maid.
Lena? Is Lena still with her?
A nod from Peter.
I'm glad Lena's still with her. Lena's fond of her.
Starting up and pacing the room.
Not that Lena can control her. A maid hasn't any authority.
Stopping before Peter.
She isn't very poorly.
No, no. A little pulled down, that's all. And as charming as ever.
Theodore walks away, and with his hands in his pockets, gazes out of the window.
She ain't sleeping. That's the real bother.
Not sleeping?
Walks her room half the night and consumes too many cigarettes.
Why?
I can only give you my impression.
Well?
My dear chap, do you think that she doesn't recollect the happy times as well as the bad uns? Ain't she viewing it all from a distance, as you are?
Rising.
And don't the good times stand out in her mind, as they do in yours?
Approaching Theodore.
Theo?
Hmm?
I had a long confab with her this morning.
What about?
The possibility of a reconciliation.
There is a pause, and then Theodore turns to Peter.
Huh, so that's what you're after, is it?
Yes, and I'm bent on carrying it through.
You meddlesome old buffer. How did she take it?
In a way that convinced me you've only to assure her that your old feelings for her have returned. And in spite of everything...
Everything? Wait till she hears of sweet Alice.
Wait?
Theodore looking at Peter.
Why? Do you mean...
Oh, yes. It's got to her.
Already?
Jim Melandon travelled with her from Paris on Sunday.
Did he?
I suppose he thought it'd amuse her.
The skunk!
If it hadn't been Jim, it would have been somebody else.
You're right. Somebody had to be the first.
However, I did my best for you.
Denied it?
Warmly. I defended you and the young lady with all the eloquence I could command.
Zoe didn't believe you.
A pause.
She didn't believe you.
Peter shrugs his shoulders.
Of course she didn't.
Passing Peter and walking about the room.
What did she say? Hey! Oh, I can guess. You needn't tell me. What's everybody saying? Peter, I'd give half as much as I'm worth to wipe the Annerly incident off my slate. I would, on the nail. Just fancy, to reach my age, and to be of decent repute, and then to have your name linked with a brainless mercenary little troll like Alice Annerly. Ha ha! Glorious fun for 'em in the city, and at the club. You hear it all. Confound you. Can't you open your mouth? Oh, of course Zoe sums it all up. She's cute enough when she chooses.
Sitting upon the settee on the left and mopping his face and throat with his handkerchief.
How did it end?
End?
Your chat with my missus.
It ended in my urging her to consider the matter, think it over.
Coming to him.
I'm dining with her next week.
Sitting in the chair at the further end of the settee.
If you'll authorize me to open negotiations with her on your behalf.
I approach her?
Certainly.
Theodore twisting his handkerchief into a rope.
No.
Why not?
A couple of months back I could have done it, even as late as a fortnight ago, before I'd given myself away by showing myself in public with Alice. It might have been feasible.
Between his teeth.
But now, when I've lost any remnant of claim I may have had on her respect.
Peter in his judicial manner.
My dear chap, here is a case.
Hell with you and your case.
Jumping up and walking away to the right.
I couldn't screw myself up to it. I couldn't humble myself to that extent.
Moving about.
Oh, how she'd grin. She's got a cruel sense of humour, Peter. Or had once. You see, I always posed to her as being a strong, rather cold-blooded man.
A favourite pose, that, of husbands.
It was more than a pose. I thought I was a strong man. And then, to crawl back to her, all over mud.
He halts in the middle of the room, and with a shaky hand produces his cigar case from his pocket and takes out a cigar.
I was about to remark, when you chipped in with your usual politeness, I was about to remark that this is a case where two persons have behaved more or less stupidly.
Two?
You more, she less.
Theodore, his brow darkening.
You're referring to...
Mrs. Zoe.
Theodore cutting his cigar viciously.
With Ferris?
Yes, and I think that the friend of both parties, the individual on whose shoulders the task of adjusting matters would fall,
rising,
I think that that friend might manage to impose a condition which would be greatly to your advantage.
Condition?
No imputations to be made on either side.
Theodore broodingly.
No imputations?
Each party accepting the statement of the other party, and promising not to rake up anything that's occurred during the past 4 months.
I understand.
It'd help to save your face for the moment, and the healing hand of time might be trusted to do the rest.
Peter.
Hello?
When I was at the house on Monday, my wife's house, 11:30 in the morning.
Well?
There was a yellow car at the door.
Yeller car?
I couldn't get near, but that fellow has a yellow car.
Has he?
Why, he's driven you in it.
I'd forgotten.
Theodore looking at Peter.
He's still hanging on to her skirts, eh?
He's an ill-bred, tactless cub. But he's got a nice head of hair and smells of soap, and that's the sort women love to have dangling about after 'em.
Theodore, with an effort.
There's nothing in it, Peter, beyond that.
Peter waving his hand disdainfully.
Good God.
Oh, I know there isn't. With all her faults, I know she's as straight as a die.
Looking at Peter again.
Did you touch on the subject with her?
Peter nodding.
I rubbed it in. I told her conduct had been indiscreet to a degree. I thought it policy to rub it in.
Did she offer any explanation?
Peter nodding.
Pure thoughtlessness.
And you felt that she was speaking the truth?
My dear Theodore.
You swear that?
Suddenly grasping the lapel of Peter's coat.
Damn it, man. You began talking about the thing.
Cole enters at the double door carrying a note in the shape of a cocked hat.
What do you want?
I beg your pardon, sir.
Theodore going to him.
Hey?
He snatches the note from the man, and as he glances at the writing on it, his jaw drops.
An answer, sir.
Theodore trying to unfold the note.
Messenger?
The lady herself, I think, sir.
There is a pause, and then Theodore slowly gets the note open and reads it. Theodore to Cole.
Where?
In the smoking room, sir.
Wait.
Yes, sir.
Cole withdraws. Theodore to Peter, who has wandered away.
Peter.
Peter comes to him, and Theodore hands him the note. Peter's eyes bolt as he recognizes the handwriting. Peter reading the note.
Will you see me? Short.
Examining both sides of the paper, and then returning the note to Theodore.
Sweet.
Theodore chewing his unlighted cigar.
This is your doing.
Peter beaming.
I flatter myself it must be.
Laying a hand on Theodore's shoulder.
My dear Theo, this puts a new aspect on the affair. Clears the air.
New aspect?
She makes the first advances, dear kind soul as she is.
A pause.
Shall I fetch her in?
Hold hard. Don't be in such a devil of a hurry.
He leaves Peter and seats himself in a heap in the chair on the right of the fireplace. Peter moves softly to the double door, his hand on the door handle to Theodore.
May I?
Theodore raises his head and nods. Peter goes out. As the door closes, Theodore gets to his feet and flings his cigar into the grate. Then hastily he proceeds to put the room in order, closing the piano and beating out and rearranging the pillows on the settees. Finally he comes upon Mrs. Annerly's empty coffee cup, picks it up and vanishes with it into the dining room. After a little while the double door opens and Peter returns. He glances round the room, looks surprised at not finding Theodore, and with a motion of the head invites Zoe to enter. Presently she appears, beautifully dressed. She also looks round, and passing Peter she moves trembling to the fireplace. He closes the door and joins her. Peter to Zoe.
You're a brick to do this.
Am I?
You'll never regret it.
Zoe clutching Peter's arm.
He will be kind to me?
As kind as you are to him.
Zoe drawing a deep breath.
Ah.
She sits upon the settee on the right, and her eyes roam about the room.
What a ripping flat.
Oh, I don't know.
He has been doing himself jolly well, in all conscience.
The dining-room door opens and Theodore appears. He shuts the door and edges towards Peter, who leads him to Zoe.
My dear old pals.
Zoe gets to her feet, and Theodore awkwardly holds out his hand to her.
How are you, Zoe?
Fairly. Thanks.
She hurriedly produces her handkerchief from a gold bag hanging from her wrist, and moves away to the left. There she sits upon the settee, struggling to command herself. Peter gives Theodore's arm a friendly grip and makes for the double door. As he passes behind the settee on which Zoe is seated, he stops to pat her shoulder. Zoe, seizing his hand.
Don't go, Peter. Don't go.
He releases his hand, gives hers a reassuring squeeze, and goes to the door. Peter at the door to Theodore.
I shall be in the city till 6.
He departs. After a silence, Theodore approaches Zoe. They carefully avoid meeting each other's eyes.
It's very good of you, Zoe, to hunt me up.
I went first to Copthall Court.
Wiping a tear from her cheek.
I thought I should find you there.
I haven't been at all regular at the office lately.
A pause. They look about the room in opposite directions.
Peter tells me he had a little talk with you this morning.
Yes.
About our being reconciled.
Yes.
Well?
She puts her handkerchief away and takes from her bag a torn envelope with some enclosures. She gives it to him timidly, and he extracts from the envelope a letter and a key.
The damned cruel letter I left behind me that evening with my latchkey.
She inclines her head.
May I destroy it?
She nods assent, and he tears up the envelope and letter and crams the pieces into his trouser pocket. Theodore looking at the key.
The key?
It's yours again, if you like.
You willing?
Again she inclines her head, and he puts the key into a pocket in his waistcoat, and seats himself humbly in the chair at the further end of the settee.
Thank ye.
After a pause.
Zoe.
Yes?
Theodore turning to her, but not lifting his eyes.
Look here. I'm not going to try to deceive you. I want you to understand exactly what you're offering to take back.
Exactly.
I gather from Peter that you came over from Paris on Sunday in the company of Mr. Jim Mallandane.
I picked him up by chance at the Gare du Nord.
And Mr. Jim whiled away the journey by gossiping to you about me and a woman of the name of Annerly?
On the boat.
Quite so.
A pause.
When you mentioned the matter to Peter, he produced the whitewash bucket, didn't he?
Slapped it on thick.
Theodore looking at her from under his brows.
But you didn't.
She shakes her head.
You're right. Peter's a liar. It's a true bill. I wish it wasn't, but it is.
Zoe, after a pause.
Well?
Theodore looking at her again.
Are you prepared to forgive me that too, then?
She nods, but with compressed lips. He bows his head.
Anyhow, I'm easier for making a clean breast of it.
How did you come to...
Lower myself with this hussy?
Looking up.
Isn't it all of a piece? Isn't it the natural finish of the mistakes of the last year or so, the errors we've committed since we began kicking each other's shins? Oh, I'm not reproaching you now for your share of the transaction. It was my job, the husband's job, to be patient with you, to smooth you down gently, and to wait. But instead of doing that, I let my mind dwell on my own grievances, with the result that, latterly, the one thing in the world I envied was the fellow who'd kept his liberty, or who'd had the pluck to knock off the shackles.
Rising and walking about, gathering his thoughts as he proceeds.
Well, I got my freedom at last, didn't I? And a nice mess I made of it. I started by taking a furnished lodging in St. James's Street. Sky high, quiet, peaceful. Ha! Hardly a fortnight was out before I had blue devils and was groaning to myself at the very state of things I had been longing for. Why should I be condemned? I said to myself. Why should I be condemned to an infernal dull life while others round me were enjoying themselves like fighting cocks? And just then this flat was offered to me as it stands, and in less than a month after I'd slammed the front door at Lancaster Gate I was giving a dinner party here, a housewarming.
Halting at the window, his back to Zoe.
A dinner party to 24 people, and not all of them men.
I heard of your setting up here while I was in Florence.
Clenching her hands.
In Florence.
Theodore resuming his walk.
However, so far it was nothing but folly on my part, egregious folly, and so it continued till I had the honour of being introduced to Mrs. Annerly at a supper at Jack Ponserog's.
Eyeing Zoe askance.
I won't give you the details of the pretty story. Your imagination will supply those. The heading of the chapters, at any rate. Chapter 1, Conceit. I had the besotted vanity to fancy she liked me and was genuinely sympathetic towards me.
At the mantelpiece, looking down into the grate.
And so on to chapter the last. The chapter with the inevitable title, Disgust, Loathing.
You're so sure you've reached the final chapter?
Theodore turning to her.
Heavens, yes.
Shaking himself.
It's all over. I've paid her off, today, as it happens. I've been itching to do it, and I've done it.
Sitting upon the settee on the right.
Another month of her society, and I believe I'd have gone to the dogs completely.
His elbows on his knees, holding his head.
Zoe.
Eh?
Peter says you're walking your room half the night and smoking your nerves raw.
Does he? He needn't have repeated.
Zoe, I've been walking this horrible flat in the same way. I can't get to bed till I hear the rattle of the milk carts, and I'm smoking too much, and not only that...
Zoe looking at him for the first time.
Not only what?
Well, a man doesn't smoke till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning on coca, does he?
There is a moment's silence, and then she rises and goes to him.
Oh, Theo.
Theodore looking up at her.
So your liberty hasn't made you over-happy either, has it, old girl?
No.
You've been thinking, too, of the good times we've had together, eh?
Yes.
He rises and places his hands upon her shoulders yearningly, as if about to draw her to him. She shrinks from him with a startled look.
Theo?
Theodore dropping his hands.
What?
Zoe nervously.
There's one thing I want to say to you before we go further.
Theodore, feeling the rebuff.
As I've told you, I'm willing that you should return to Lancaster Gate. You may return as soon as you please, but...
But?
It must be simply as a companion, Theo. A friend.
A friend.
Zoe with a slight shrug.
Not that we've been much else to each other these last few years, except enemies. Still.
Theodore, frowning.
You wish to make it perfectly clear.
Yes.
Theodore, after a pause.
I beg your pardon. I was forgetting myself just now. Thanks for the reminder.
Walking away from her.
Oh, I know you can feel only the most utter contempt for me. Wholesale contempt.
Ah, no, don't take that tone.
Stand the naughty boy in the corner. He's earned any amount of humiliation you choose to inflict.
You shall never be humiliated by me, Theo.
Theodore throwing himself upon the settee on the left.
Evidently.
Zoe turning away.
Oh, for God's sake, Don't let's begin fighting again.
Sitting on the settee on the right.
Don't let's do that.
Ha ha, no, we won't squabble. Right you are. I accept the terms, any terms.
Lying at full length upon his back on the settee.
As you say, we've been little more than friends of late years, good friends or bad.
Throwing one leg over the other.
It's your laying down the law so emphatically that riled me. Sorry I growled.
There is a silence between them. She watches him guiltily. Suddenly he changes the position of his legs.
Zoe.
Yes?
Theodore gazing at the ceiling.
At the same time, I'm blessed if I wouldn't rather you wanted to tear my eyes out than that you should treat me in this lofty, condescending style. Scratch my face and tear my eyes out.
Well, I don't, you see.
Theodore smiling unpleasantly.
Alice Annerly's an extremely handsome creature, my dear. Whatever else she may be.
I'm sure of it.
Her photo's on the top of the piano.
Zoe restraining an impulse to glance over her shoulder.
I'm not curious.
Oh, you mayn't be aware of the fact, but I've paid you the compliment of resenting the deep devotion your pet poodle, Master Lenny Ferris, has been paying you recently. You might do me a similar honour. Master blooming Lenny.
Again there is a pause, and then slowly he turns upon his side so that he may face her.
I say, that was a pretty disgraceful business, your traipsing about Italy with that fellow.
Another pause.
Hey?
Zoe holding her breath.
It was unwise of me, I own.
Unwise? Peter and I were discussing it when your note was brought in.
Zoe moistening her lips.
Were you?
Yes, we were.
Another pause.
My God, I think it's I who ought to dictate what our domestic arrangements are to be in the future, not you.
A pause. With a motion of the head, he invites her to come to him.
Zoe.
A pause.
Don't you hear me?
She hesitates. Then she nerves herself and rises, and with a light step crosses the room. Zoe resting her arms on the back of the chair at the further end of the settee on which he is lying.
Still the same dear old bully, I notice.
Sit down.
Your gentle voice is quite audible where I am.
Theodore putting his feet to the ground.
You sit down a minute.
She sits haughtily.
Now you look here, my lady. I should like an account of that Italian affair from the word go.
I'm not in the mood to furnish it.
Perhaps not, but I'm in the mood to receive it.
A pause.
When did he join you?
He didn't join me. That's not the way to put it.
Put it any way you like. When was it?
At the end of February, I think.
You think?
A pause.
What made him go out to you?
He knew I was awfully in the dumps.
Did he? How did he know that?
He guessed I must be.
Guessed?
Well, I'd seen him before I went away. I was dreadfully depressed, Theo. Dreadfully désolée. I never thought you'd bang out of the house as you did. I never meant for a single moment.
Where were you when he turned up?
I'd got to Florence. I'd been to Genoa and Pisa. I was drifting about.
Did he dream you were in Florence?
Dream?
He must have dreamt it.
Oh, I see what you're driving at. He'd had a postcard from me.
A postcard?
I don't mean one, you silly. I sent him a picture from each town. So I did to Peter.
Why don't you admit that you and Ferris were corresponding?
I am admitting it. It's nothing to admit.
Isn't it?
A pause.
Well, he arrives in Florence.
Don't worry me this afternoon, Theo.
How long was he with you in Florence?
I'm seedy. I had quite a temperature yesterday. Lena called in rashly.
How long was he with you in Florence?
He wasn't with me.
How long?
A week. 8 days.
Same hotel?
No.
And afterwards?
I wanted to do a little tour of the quiet old places. Perugia, Siena.
So did he, eh?
He tacked on. I saw no harm in it at the time.
At the time?
Nor do I now.
It was coming from Perugia you fell up against Lowenstein.
If you were a man, you'd thrash that beast.
Lowenstein had the room at the hotel there. The Brefani that Ferris had had.
Ah.
In the same corridor as yours was.
It was stupid. Stupid of Lenny to let them carry his bag up to the Brufani. It was all done before it dawned on him.
Where were you moving on to when Lowenstein met you at Arezzo?
A pause.
Hey?
Zoe passing her hand across her brow.
Let me off today, Theo. My head's going like a clock.
Getting to her feet.
Take it up again another time.
She goes to the settee on the right and picks up her bag, which she has left there. He rises and follows her, so that when she turns they come face to face. She steadies herself.
Well, you turn it over in your mind about coming back to me. I don't want to put pressure on you. Only I understood from Peter you were feeling kindly towards me again.
When did you see Ferris last?
Oh, drop Ferris.
When?
Oh, over 2 months ago. At the end of the little jaunt.
Not since?
She looks at him vacantly and shakes her head.
That's a lie. He was with you on Monday morning at 11:30. Do you deny it?
You're so jealous. One's afraid.
Zoe!
I'm not going to remain here to be.
Give me your word nothing wrong's occurred between you and Ferris.
A pause.
I don't ask for your oath. I'll be satisfied with your word.
A pause.
Give me your word.
She sits upon the settee, her hands lying in her lap. Zoe staring at him.
Theo, I've forgiven you. Forgive me.
There's a silence, and then, dumbfounded, he moves to the chair at the further end of the settee on the left and sits there. Theodore, after a while.
Florence?
No. Perugia. Siena. It was in Florence I first lost my senses. I'd been pitying you, hating myself for the way I'd served you, and had been trying to concoct a letter to you. And then one arrived from him, telling me you'd taken this big flat and were having a splendid time. It made me furious. And when he came through to me, I was half beside myself. And then he planned out the little tour, and I said yes to it.
Wringing her hands.
Why did I fall in with it? I shall never know why, except that I was mad. Blind mad.
Leaning back, her eyes closed.
Get me a drop of water.
He rouses himself and goes to the table on the left of the fireplace and half fills a tumbler with soda water. Then he brings her the tumbler and holds it out to her.
Here.
Zoe opening her eyes and looking up at him beseechingly.
Be merciful to me.
Take it.
Zoe barely touching the glass.
Don't be hard on me, old man.
He thrusts the tumbler into her hands and she drinks.
I must have some advice about this. Some advice.
Advice?
He goes to the writing table, sits there, and places the telephone receiver to his ear.
You won't do anything to disgrace me publicly, will you, Theo?
He taps the arm of the instrument impatiently.
You won't do anything spiteful?
He rings again.
You and I are both sinners, Theo. We both gone amucker.
Theodore speaking into the telephone.
London Wall, 13558.
That's Peter. He won't advise you do anything spiteful.
She rises painfully, puts the tumbler on the top of the piano, and walks about the room.
What can you do? You can do nothing to hurt me, nor I you. We're both sinners.
Theodore into the telephone.
Hello? Are you Blundell, Slade and Mottram? Is that Mr. Ewart? Mr. Blundell. Mr. Mottram not back yet, I suppose?
Both gone a mucker.
When he comes in, tell him I want to see him at once. Cavendish Square. At once. Goodbye.
Replacing the receiver. Zoe on the left.
Peter won't let you be too rough on me.
Theodore leaning his head on his hands.
Ho-ho, an eye-opener for Peter. But he's been a first-rate prophet all the same. Yes, Peter's been all right along the line, with his precious mid-channel.
Theo.
He makes no response.
Theo?
Coming to him slowly.
I was thinking it over. Beating it all out. Driving into the city and back again. Our marriage was doomed long before we reached mid-channel.
Oh?
It was doomed nearly 14 years ago.
Oh?
From the very beginning.
Theodore raising his head.
What do ye?
It was doomed from the moment we agreed that we'd never be encumbered in our career with any brats of children.
He partly turns in his chair to listen to her.
I want you to remember that bargain in judging me, and I want you to tell Peter of it.
Yes, it suits you to rake that up now.
Zoe pressing her fingers to her temples.
If there had been brats of children at home, it would have made a different woman of me, Theo. Such a different woman of me, and a different man of you. But no, everything in the earlier years of our marriage was sacrificed to coining money, to shoving our way through the crowd, to getting on. Everything was sacrificed to that.
Oh!
And then, when we had succeeded, when we had got on, we had commenced to draw apart from each other. And there was the great, showy, empty house at Lancaster Gate for me to fret and pine in.
He waves his arms scornfully.
Oh, yes, we were happy in those climbing days, greedily, feverishly happy. But we didn't look to the time when we should need another interest in life to bind us together, the time when we'd got on in years as well as in position.
Theodore starts up.
Ah, Theo, I believe we should have crossed that ridge safely enough.
Laying her hands upon his breast.
But for our cursed selfishness.
Theodore shaking himself free.
Well, there's not the slightest use in talking about what might or might not have been.
Passing her and pacing the room.
One thing is absolutely certain. It's impossible for us ever to live under the same roof again under any conditions. That's out of the question. I couldn't stoop to that.
Zoe leaning against the chair at the writing table.
No, you draw the line at stooping to Mrs. Annerly.
Oh, don't keep on harping on that string. The cases are as far apart as the poles.
Ha, ha.
Theodore halting in the middle of the room and drumming upon his brow with his fingers.
Of course we could make our separation a legal one, but that wouldn't give us release, and as long as we're tied to one another.
Abruptly looking at her.
Zoe.
Eh?
If I allowed you to divorce me, made it easy for you, would that scoundrel marry you?
Zoe turning to him blankly.
Marry me?
Because if it'd save you from going utterly to the bad.
Zoe advancing a step or two.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't marry Lenny.
You wouldn't?
No.
Theodore coming close to her.
Why not?
She shrugs her shoulders confusedly.
Why not?
She wavers, then grasps his arm. Again he shakes her off.
Theo, stick it to me. Don't throw me over. Wait for Peter. Theo, I've never ceased to be fond of you.
Faugh!
Not to the bottom of my heart. No, nor you of me. There's the tragedy of it. Peter says the same.
Seizing his hand.
Take time. Don't decide today.
Theodore freeing his hand and looking at her piercingly.
When did you see him last?
Him?
Ferris.
This morning.
This morning?
I confess, this morning. I sent him away.
Sent him away?
Zoe nodding.
Yes.
And so you rush off to me, straight from the young gentleman.
Well...
Why, damn you, you have quarrelled.
No.
He's chucked you.
No.
Had enough of you.
Zoe, her eyes blazing.
That's not true.
Ho ho, you bring me his cast-off trash, do you?
It's a lie.
Mr. Lenny Ferris's leavings.
It's a lie. He'd give his soul to make me his wife.
Will he tell me that?
Tell you?
If he doesn't, I'll break every bone in his carcass.
Zoe, throwing her head up defiantly.
Of course he'd tell you.
Theodore walking away to the fireplace.
He shall have a chance of doing it.
Zoe making for the door.
The sooner the better.
Theodore looking at his watch.
If Pete were here.
Zoe behind the settee on the left, turning to Theodore.
Mind, I've your bond. If Lenny promises to marry me, you'll let me free myself from you?
I've said so.
Zoe missing her bag, which is again lying upon the settee on the left, and pointing to it.
Please?
He picks up the bag and is about to take it to her, when he remembers that he has the latchkey in his pocket. He produces the key and drops it into the bag.
You'll want this for your new husband.
Thank God I've done with the old one.
He tosses the bag to her in a fury, and she catches it. At the door.
Ta-ta!
She disappears. Theodore, flourishing his hands.
Oh.
Going to the piano, he takes the decanter of brandy and a glass from the tray and fills the glass to the brim. End of the third act. Act 4 of Mid-Channel by Arthur Wing Pinero. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The fourth act. The scene is a pretty, irregularly shaped room, simply but tastefully furnished. At the back, facing the spectator, are two double windows opening to the floor. These windows give on to a balcony which appears to continue its course outside the adjoining rooms, both on the right and left. Beyond the balcony there is an open space, and in the distance a view of the upper part of the Albert Hall and of other lofty buildings. On the left is the fireplace, its grate empty save for a few pots of flowers, and nearer the spectator there is a door opening from a corridor. Opposite this door is a door of like dimensions, admitting to a bedroom. On either side of the fireplace and of the left-hand window there is an armchair. Facing the fireplace there is a settee, and at the back of the settee are a small writing table and writing chair. A leathern tub for waste paper stands beside the writing table. On the right of the room is a round table upon which tea is laid for 3 persons. 2 chairs, one on the left, another at the further side, and a settee on the right, are drawn up close to this table. Elsewhere are a bookcase, a smoking cabinet, and some odds and ends of furniture, the whole being characteristic of a room in a small flat occupied by a well-to-do, but not wealthy young man. Both the windows are open, and the glare of the afternoon sun is on the balcony and the opposite buildings. Mrs. Pierpont, Ethel, and Leonard, the ladies in their hats and gaily dressed, are seated at the round table. Leonard in the chair on the left of the table, handing a dish of cakes to Mrs. Pierpont.
Do try one of these little cakes.
Mrs. Pierpont in the chair at the further side of the table.
I couldn't.
I bought them and carried them myself.
You really must excuse me.
Leonard pushing the dish towards Ethel, who is on the settee facing him.
Buck up, Ethel.
Goodbye to my dinner, then.
Taking a cake and biting as she speaks.
May I, Mother?
Now, isn't that the modern young lady exactly? May I, Mother? And the cake is half eaten before the poor mother can even nod her head. May I go out for a walk, Mother? And the front door bangs on the very words. May I do this? May I do that? And a nice life the mother leads if she dares to say no.
This sounds suspiciously like a sermon.
To Leonard.
Lenny, sit up straight and be preached to.
Pushing her cup to Mrs. Pierpont, who has the tea tray before her.
Another cup of tea, your reverence?
Ethel, how irreligious.
Pouring out tea.
But it's true, every syllable of it, and nothing is the spirit of, what shall I describe it as?
Go as you please, Agnes.
Mrs. Pierpoint giving Ethel her tea.
In nothing is this wilful, thoughtless spirit more plainly showed than in the way love affairs are conducted at the present day.
Phew.
Mrs. Pierpoint to Leonard.
More tea, Leonard?
No, thanks.
I suppose I must call you Leonard now.
Ethel into her teacup.
What's the matter with Lenny?
I may be wrong, but I don't think it was the fashion in my youth for a young lady suddenly to appear before her mother and to say, without a note of warning, Mr. So-and-so is in the drawing-room and we wish to be engaged. Take the case of Ethel's papa. There's a case in point.
I certainly intended to speak to you first, Mrs. Pierpoint.
You fibber.
Ethel!
Well, what I mean is...
If you had done so, I'd never have looked at you again. Surely, if there is one thing which is a girl's own particular business, it is settling preliminaries with her best young man.
My dear!
Ethel jumping up.
Anyhow, mother, if you wanted to play the dragon, you shouldn't have been upstairs sleeping off the effects of an exceedingly heavy lunch when Lenny arrived this afternoon.
Fiddle-heavy lunch, a morsel of minced chicken.
Bending over Mrs. Pierpoint.
And you don't mind, do you? Not actually.
Kissing Mrs. Pierpoint.
As long as...
As long as what?
As long as Lenny's contented.
Mrs. Pierpoint shaking herself.
Oh, go away.
Laughing, Ethel wanders about inspecting the various objects in the room. Leonard to Mrs. Pierpoint, producing his cigarette case.
Do you object?
Not in the least. Ethel's papa used to indulge, in moderation.
Leonard to Ethel over his shoulder.
Cigarette, Ethel?
Ethel, I forbid it.
Ethel putting on her gloves.
I would, but it makes me swimmy.
How do you know?
I've smoked with Zoe Blundell.
This is news to me.
Zoe smokes like a chimney.
Mrs. Pierpoint to Leonard.
By the by, she's in London again.
Yes.
Ethel called on her this morning at Lancaster Gate.
Did she?
I told you, Lan.
Ah, yes.
Mrs. Pierpoint to Leonard.
Have you seen her? I presume not.
For a few minutes. I was in the neighbourhood on Monday, and I noticed the blinds were up, and I just rang the bell to inquire.
Mrs. Pierpoint elevating her eyebrows.
She received you?
She happened to be in the hall.
I was going to say, a woman in her peculiar position ought hardly...
No, of course.
Looks ill, I understand.
Frightfully.
Does she?
I am afraid, I am very much afraid, that dear Mrs. Blundell was not entirely free from blame in her treatment of that big, rough husband of hers.
Ethel at the left-hand window.
Rubbish, mother.
Ethel, you are too disrespectful.
Sorry.
At the same time, she is an exceedingly attractive person, a trifle vulgar, poor soul, occasionally.
Mother!
Mrs. Pierpoint to Leonard.
But good-natured people frequently are vulgar, aren't they?
Ethel going on to the balcony.
Oh.
Mrs. Pierpoint to Leonard.
You were quite a friend of hers before the sad split, weren't you? Quite a friend?
Yes, I always found her a very decent sort.
Ethel, her hands upon the rail of the balustrade, calling.
Mother, do come and look at the tiny men and women.
Men and women?
Mrs. Pierpoint rises and goes to the window, whereupon Leonard jumps up as if relieved by the interruption.
You're soiling your gloves, Ethel.
Look down there. What tots!
Mrs. Pierpoint, drawing back from the window.
Oh, my dear, I can't.
Do, mother.
You know I don't care for heights.
I'll steady you.
Mrs. Pierpoint timidly ventures onto the balcony. Ethel takes her arm.
There's been a concert or a meeting. Lenny!
Leonard has walked away to the writing table gloomily. He is about to join the ladies on the balcony when the door on the left opens, and Rideout, his servant, appears. Leonard to Rideout.
Eh?
After glancing discreetly in the direction of the ladies on the balcony, Rideout produces a visiting card from behind his back. Leonard goes to him and takes the card and looks at it in astonishment.
There's some writing on it, sir.
I see. Where is she?
In my room, sir. I said you were engaged.
You didn't tell her who's here?
No, sir. Merely some friends to tea.
All right. I shan't be very long.
Rideout is going.
Psst.
Rideout stopping.
Yes, sir.
Keep your door shut.
Yes, sir.
Rideout withdraws. Leonard crams the card into his waistcoat pocket and is again about to join the ladies when Mrs. Pierpoint comes back into the room. Mrs. Pierpoint to Leonard.
Thank you for showing us your charming little nest. Quite delightful.
Leonard standing by the round table.
Oh, for bachelor quarters.
Mrs. Pierpoint in the middle of the room.
There. I declare I often wonder what there is to tempt a bachelor to marry in these days.
You're not a bachelor, Mrs. Pierpoint.
No, that's true, that's perfectly true, but I've a distinct remembrance of the rooms Ethel's papa lived in when he was a bachelor.
Ethel returns and goes to the fireplace.
They were in Keppel Street, and vastly different from these.
Turning to Ethel.
Have I ever told you that poor papa lived in Keppel Street?
Yes, mother.
And now, my dear, as we have to dine at 7:30...
To Leonard.
What time does Louise begin?
Oh, if we get there at 9.
So kind of you to take us, and as Ethel must lie down on her bed for an hour if we want her to look her best...
Pointing to the tea table.
May I trouble you, my fan?
Leonard searches for Mrs. Pierpoint's fan among the tea things. Ethel kneeling upon the settee on the left, her elbows on the back of it, gazing into space.
Mother?
Receiving her fan from Leonard.
Thank you.
Mother, this is going to be an awfully happy night.
I'm sure I hope so, my darling. It won't be my fault if it isn't.
Tapping Leonard's shoulder with her fan.
Nor Leonard's.
Ah, no. I mean the night of one's life, perhaps.
Oh, I trust we shall have many, many.
Rather.
Ethel raising herself and gripping the back of the settee.
No, you don't understand, you gabies. In everybody's life there's one especial moment.
Moment?
Hour, day, night, when all the world seems yours, as if it had been made for you, and when you can't help pitying other people, they seem so ordinary and insignificant. Well, I believe this is to be my evening.
One would imagine I had never given you any pleasure to hear you talk.
Ethel rising.
I say, Mother, don't make me lie down and lose consciousness when I get home.
Going to Mrs. Pierpoint with extended arms.
Ah, you duck.
In advancing to Mrs. Pierpoint, Ethel knocks over the waste-paper tub with her skirt, and its contents are scattered on the floor. Ethel going down on her knees and replacing the litter.
Sorry.
Mrs. Pierpoint to Ethel.
You'll crease your skirt, Ethel.
Leonard going to Ethel.
Never mind that.
Oh, but if I do anything clumsy at home...
Coming upon some fragments of a photograph.
Oh.
Trying to fit the pieces together.
Zoe.
Yes, I...
Mrs. Pierpoint, who has moved to the fireplace.
Pray, get off the floor, child.
Ethel, finding more pieces.
Why, you've been tearing up Zoe's photos.
They're old things.
That they're not. This one isn't, at all events.
Examining one of the scraps closely.
Firenze.
Ethel, we must be going.
Leave them alone, Ethel.
A little startled by his tone, she drops the pieces into the basket, and he assists her to rise. Mrs. Pierpoint opening the door on the left.
Come along at once. I insist.
Mrs. Pierpoint goes out. Ethel is following her mother when she turns to Leonard, who is behind her. Ethel to Leonard with a smile.
Sorry I contradicted you.
They kiss hurriedly, and Ethel runs after her mother. Leonard follows and closes the door. After a little while the door is reopened, and Rideout enters with Zoe. Zoe is dressed as when last seen. Rideout to Zoe as she passes him.
Mr. Ferris has gone to the lift, ma'am. He won't be a minute.
Zoe going to the left-hand window.
All right.
Rideout at the round table, putting the tea things together upon the tray.
Shall I make you some tea, ma'am?
Zoe looking out of the window.
No, I've had tea in a tea shop.
Turning.
Rideout?
Yes, ma'am.
I should like to tidy myself if I may. I've been walking about.
Rideout going to the door on the right and opening it.
Certainly, ma'am.
As Zoe approaches.
The hot water flows cold for a few seconds, ma'am.
Is there any scent?
There's some eau de cologne on the dressing table, ma'am.
She disappears, and Rideout closes the door and continues his preparations for removing the tea things. Leonard returns. Rideout answering a look of inquiry from Leonard.
Mrs. Blundell's tidying herself, sir.
Oh, yes.
Moving about the room.
Won't she have some tea?
I did ask her, sir. She's had it.
Leonard halting.
Did Mrs. Blundell say anything, Rideout?
Rideout folding the tablecloth.
Only that she wanted to see you just for 10 minutes, sir, and that she thought she'd wait. And then she wrote on her card and told me to slip it into your hand if I got the opportunity.
Leonard resuming his walk.
Yes, yes.
Rideout after a pause.
What time will you dress, sir?
7:15. I have to dine at past.
Which suit will you wear, sir?
Leonard considering.
Pink lining.
Theatre, sir?
Opera. 2 pairs of gloves.
Rideout goes towards the door on the left, carrying the tea tray.
Tss.
Yes, sir?
There's no necessity to put out my clothes yet a while.
Rideout placing the tray upon a piece of furniture so that he can open the door.
No, sir.
I'll ring when you can come through.
Rideout opening the door.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not at home to anybody else.
Rideout taking up the tray.
No, sir.
As the man is leaving the room, Leonard comes to the door to close it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Rideout goes out, and Leonard shuts the door. As he turns from the door, his eyes fall upon the wastepaper tub. He snatches it up angrily. Leonard reopening the door and calling.
Rideout!
Rideout out of sight.
Yes, sir?
Rideout presents himself at the door without the tray. Leonard shaking up the contents of the tub and then giving it to Rideout.
Burn this wastepaper.
Yes, sir.
Rideout closes the door, and Leonard is again walking about the room when Zoe, carrying her hat, gloves, and bag, appears on the balcony outside the right-hand window. She enters, and they look at one another for a moment without speaking.
Hello, Zoe.
Hello, Len.
This is a surprise.
Zoe putting her hat, gloves, and bag upon the round table.
Is it?
I thought you'd dropped my acquaintance for good and all.
No, Len. Why should you think that?
Well, I bear the marks of the point of your shoes somewhere about me.
Oh, you You mustn't take me too seriously when I'm in one of my vile tempers.
A pause.
I'm not keeping you.
No.
Zoe turning the chair on the left of the round table so that it faces the writing table.
May I sit down?
Do.
I was here 3/4 of an hour ago, but the porter said you were out, so I went and got some tea.
Sitting.
You've been entertaining, according to Rideout.
Leonard turning the chair at the writing table and sitting facing her.
A couple of people turned up. Old friends.
You are a gay dog.
Suddenly staring at the writing table.
Why, where am I?
You?
You always have a photograph of me standing on your writing table.
It's...
Zoe remembering.
And there isn't one now.
Glancing at the door on the right.
In your...
The frames had got beastly shabby. The Rideout's taken them to be done up.
Honor?
A pause.
Honor?
If I say so.
I beg your pardon. No, you wouldn't out my photos because of a little tiff, would you?
Likely.
Zoe rising and going to him.
I'm sure you wouldn't, dear boy. I'm sure you wouldn't.
Again there is a pause during which she passes her hand over his shoulder caressingly.
Len?
Eh?
Zoe standing behind him.
After that stupid fallout of ours this morning, what do you think I did?
Did?
I took it into my head to pay Theodore a visit.
Pay him a visit?
It was one of my silly impulses. I was so upset at having offended you.
Did you see him?
Yes.
And what had he to say for himself?
Oh, I made such a mash of it, Len.
Mash?
Yes, I let him worm it out of me.
Worm it out of you?
Worm it all out.
Worm what out of you?
Perugia.
There's a silence, and then Leonard rises with an angry look. Zoe holding the lapels of his coat.
Don't be savage with me, Len. It wasn't altogether my fault. He had heard of it from Claude Lowenstein. And it's of no consequence, none whatsoever. It's just as you said this morning. He is ready to make matters smooth for us.
Smooth? For us?
Yes, to let me divorce him. He's promised to do so, if you'll only...
Leonard, his jaw dropping.
If
you'll give him your word that you'll do the right thing by me.
The right thing?
Marry me.
A pause.
I suppose he'll demand to see you. Or perhaps he'll make Peter Mottram a go-between.
Again there is a silence, and then he walks away from her. She follows him with her eyes.
But you wished me goodbye this morning. Finished with me.
Zoe, clenching her hands.
I know.
Coming to him.
But he insulted me, Len. Stung me. He flung it in my face that you'd chucked me. That I was your cast-off, your leavings. I couldn't bear it from him, and I told him that you were all eagerness to make me your wife.
A pause.
Well, and so you were this morning.
He sits in the chair on the left of the round table, his elbows on his knees, holding his head.
Zoe?
What?
These people I've had to tea this afternoon. Ladies. 2 ladies.
Yes?
Mrs. Pierpoint was one of them, and...
Mrs. Pierpoint?
Leonard raising his head and looking at her.
The other was... Ethel.
Ethel?
You made me do it.
Zoe, dazed.
I made you?
Drawing a deep breath.
Oh.
She turns from him slowly and seats herself in the chair at the writing table.
I'd forgotten, Ethel.
Yes, you persuaded me to do it.
A pause.
So, you egged me on to do it.
You didn't lose much time, did you?
I was furious when I left you. Furious.
Zoe with an attempt at a smile.
Why, you must have bolted straight off to her.
I went to the club and had some food. And then I came back here and changed, and...
got rid of those photos.
I was furious. Furious.
And then you bustled off to Sloane Street.
He rises and paces the room. After a while she pulls herself together.
Oh, well, it can't be helped, old boy.
It must be helped. It must be helped. I must get out of it. I must get out of it. Somehow or other, I must get out of it.
Get out of it?
The Pierpoints.
Oh, don't talk such utter rubbish. I'd kill myself sooner.
He throws himself into the chair on the right of the left-hand window.
No, I'm a rotter, Len, but I'm not as low as that. Oh, no, I'm not as low as all that.
She rises and goes slowly to the round table, and in a listless way pulls the pins out of her hat.
I'll be toddling home now.
Tracing a pattern on the crown of her hat with the hat pins.
Home.
Knitting her brows.
I shall clear out of that big, flashy, empty...
Putting on her hat.
I have made a mash of it, haven't I? My father always said I was a heedless, irresponsible little puss.
With a puzzled look, her arms hanging at her side.
There was a lot of good in me, too. Any amount of good.
She is drawing on a glove when she turns her head in the direction of the door on the left. At the same moment, Leonard, also looking at the door, gets to his feet. Zoe, listening.
What's that, dear?
He tiptoes to the door, opens it an inch or two, and puts his ear to the opening. Leonard, carefully closing the door and turning to her.
Blundell.
Oh.
Don't worry. I've ToddHWLeonard.
There's a pause. They stand looking at each other in silence, waiting. Suddenly Leonard returns to the door, and without opening it, listens again.
Curse the brute, he won't go.
He faces her irresolutely, and in a panic she picks up her bag and her other glove and runs out at the door on the right. Leonard is in the middle of the room when the door on the left is thrown open, and Theodore and Peter enter, followed by Rideout. Theodore and Peter have their hats on. Rideout to Leonard.
I beg your pardon, sir.
All right.
Theodore to Peter.
You give the man half a sovereign, Peter. That'll soothe his feelings.
Shush, shush, Theo.
Rideout withdraws. Theodore advancing to Leonard.
Oh, not at home, eh?
Leonard facing him.
No, I'm not. Not to you.
You be quiet, Ferris.
Leonard to Theodore.
What the devil do you mean by forcing your way into my place?
Theodore raising a walking cane which he carries.
You!
Peter quickly puts himself between the two men as Leonard seizes the chair on the left of the round table. Peter to Theodore, endeavoring to get the walking cane from him.
Give me that.
To Leonard.
You keep a civil tongue in your head.
To Theodore.
Give it me.
Holding the cane.
You know what you promised. Give it up.
Theodore resigns the cane to Peter and walks away to the fireplace, where he stands with his back to the others. Peter lays the cane upon the writing table and then turns to Leonard.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You see, the man's labouring under great excitement.
I dare say a good many people in London are labouring under excitement. That's no reason why they should have the run of my flat.
Will you oblige me by sitting down and listening to me for a moment?
Any man who treats me courteously will be treated courteously in return.
Sitting in the chair on the left of the round table.
I can do with you, Peter.
Can you? Then you'll be so kind as to drop addressing me by my Christian name.
Sitting in the chair at the writing table.
Ferris?
Leonard, curling his lip.
Yes, Mr. Mottram?
Mrs. Blundell called upon her husband today. This afternoon, about 3 o'clock.
Leonard with an assumption of ease.
Oh, did she?
And made a communication to him. A communication of a very painful, very shocking character. I presume you don't require me, or Blundell, to enter into particulars?
Oh, for heaven's sake, no.
We may take it, without going further, that what Mrs. Blundell had stated is absolutely the truth.
Absolutely.
A pause. Theodore moves from the fireplace to the left-hand window and stands there staring at the prospect.
One thing, though, she mayn't have stated as clearly as she might.
What's that?
That she's an injured woman, badly dealt with by her husband, and worse, by a humble servant. And that both Blundell and I damn well deserve to be hanged.
Theodore turns to Leonard fiercely. Peter to Theodore.
Well, have you any objection to that?
Theodore draws himself up as if to retort. Then his body relaxes, and he drops into the chair on the left of the window. Peter to Leonard.
Now then, attend to me.
Yes?
Obviously, it's impossible, after what's transpired, that Mr. and Mrs. Blundell should ever live together again.
She didn't?
I believe there was an idea that her husband should go back to Lancaster Gate.
With a wave of the hand.
But we needn't discuss that. We'd better come at once to the object of this meeting.
Object?
The best method of providing for the safety and happiness, we hope, of the unfortunate lady who's gone and made a bit of a munge of her affairs.
Yes?
Ferris, Mrs. Blundell has given her husband to understand that, if existing obstacles were removed, if she were a free woman, in point of fact, you'd be willing to marry her.
She's correct.
That you're keen on it.
Leonard with a nod.
Keen on it.
Good. We're all tiled here. Are you prepared to give Blundell your word of...
Honour? Can't you say it? Do you think that because a fellow's done a scoundrelly act once in his life?
That'll do. Your word of honour. That being so, Blundell undertakes, on his part, not to oppose Mrs. Blundell's action for divorce. On the contrary...
Turning to Theodore.
Theo? Your word of honour?
My word of honour.
Peter to Theodore and Leonard shortly.
Thank ye. And both of you empower me to go to Mrs. Zoe?
A pause. Peter turns to Theodore.
Eh?
Yes.
Peter to Leonard.
And you?
Leonard is silent.
What's the matter?
Leonard, after further pause.
Look here. I don't want either of you two men to suspect me of playing double.
Playing double?
I tell you honestly, Mrs. Blundell declines.
Declines?
Yes. She refuses.
Theodore rises. Peter, also rising, to Theodore.
Shush. You keep out of it.
To Leonard.
Ah, but you haven't seen Mrs. Blundell since...
Theodore to Peter, prompting him.
Since she left me today.
Peter to Leonard.
Since she left her husband this afternoon. Have you?
Yes, I have.
Theodore to Peter.
Where?
Peter to Leonard.
Where?
There is a further silence. Theodore under his breath.
What's this game, Peter? What's this game?
Peter restraining him.
Don't you interfere.
To Leonard.
Ferris?
Leonard rising.
Mottram, Mrs. Blundell called on me about a quarter of an hour ago. We were talking the matter over in this room, and we heard Blundell kicking up a riot in the passage.
Glancing at the door on the right.
She's here.
There is a movement from Theodore.
Mottram, I depend on you.
Peter looks at Theodore, who, in obedience to the look, goes back to the fireplace. Leonard moves to the door on the right, and then turns. Leonard speaking across the room to Theodore.
Blundell, I've given you my word of honour, and I abide by Mrs. Blundell's decision.
To Peter, pointing to Theodore.
Mottram, I depend on you.
He opens the door and calls,
Mrs. Blundell.
There is no response.
Mrs. Blundell.
Theodore looking down into the grate.
Call her Zoe. Why the devil don't you call her Zoe?
Leonard calling.
Zoe.
Still obtaining no reply, he goes into the next room. Theodore comes to Peter.
Some game up, eh?
Shush.
What is it? What trick is she up to now, eh?
Leonard reappears. Leonard standing in the doorway, bewildered.
I can't make it out.
What?
She's not there.
Ha! Hooked it.
Leonard looking towards the balcony.
She must have gone along the balcony without our noticing her, and through the kitchen.
Looking at Peter.
She must have done so.
Why?
You know there's no other door.
He crosses to the door on the left. As he gets to it, it opens, and Rideout presents himself.
Sir?
Leonard to Rideout.
Has anybody passed through your kitchen?
No, sir.
Leonard, after a pause.
What do you want?
There's been an accident, sir.
Accident?
At this moment, Theodore and Peter turn their heads towards the balcony, as if they are listening to some sounds reaching them from a distance. Giving Leonard a frightened look, Rideout withdraws quickly. Leonard turns to Theodore and Peter, in time to see them hurrying on to the balcony through the left-hand window. He follows them as far as the window, and recoils before them as they come back into the room after looking over the balustrade. Theodore staggering to the door on the left.
Oh, my God! Oh, my God! Oh, my God!
He disappears. Leonard to Peter, shaking a trembling hand at him.
An accident. It's an accident.
Coming to Peter appealingly.
An accident!
Yes, an accident.
Gripping Leonard's arm.
She told me once it would be in the winter time.
They go out together. End of Act 4. End of Mid-Channel by Arthur Wing Pinero.